Chapter 385. Therefore she was quite opposed to Li Shanpao's marriage. Once she married Li Shanpao, then Hong Ing Group's authority would have to be handed over, because the Hong Chamber of Commerce was not a monolithic entity. After several thousand years of development, Hong Zhong, who was at the helm, already had many descendants. Although Hong Zhu's grandfather was the main bloodline, there were also many other relatively close collateral relatives, such as Hong Zhu's cousins. Which of these people did not want to replace him? Hong Zhu had only two goals now. One was to find a woman with a natural charm and replace her. Although Hong Zhu's aptitude was not very good, she was considered one of the best in the Heavenly Fox sect. The Heavenly Fox sect only had a candidate for the position of Demon Sect Saintess every few decades. The Heavenly Fox sect had placed great hopes on Hong Zhu, so if she did not find someone who could replace her, it would not be easy for Hong Zhu to get away. Although she was an important figure in the Hong Chamber of Commerce, it was the sect that taught her martial arts cultivation. Hong Zhu was not an ungrateful person, so she must finish what she started. She was a demonic cultivator who practiced the bewitching bone technique, so she was particularly sensitive to the aura of the bewitching bone technique. However, she could not say that she could tell who was who in the vast sea of people with just a glance, let alone search aimlessly. However, it was not that there was no way. When a woman with a natural charm had the strongest desire in that aspect, she could feel the existence of the other party. In Songning City there was a woman with a natural charm. This was accidentally sensed by other people in the sect when they were carrying out other tasks in Songning City. However, the aura was coming to an end, and the people in the sect had other things to do, so they missed it. However, the approximate location was near the Little Hong Pharmacy where Hong Zhu was. There might be a slight
Chapter
deviation
390.
because the person
This
had sensed it
generation
in
of the
action.
Devil Star sect
It was
is
just
really
that
full of
Hong Zhu
talents.
had not sensed
The two
anything even
disciples
though she
who
had been here
participated
for a
in the
very
Righteous
long
Demon
time.
Summit are both
Thus, in
outstanding.
her opinion, the location
Elder
of
Fong
the
said
pharmacy was
lightly,
perhaps
"He
just a
killed the
kilometer
disciple
away
of the
from where that
extreme
naturally
sect.
bewitching
He's
person
not
was.
simple.
Perhaps that
I heard
person
that
had
Lin
only
booked a
Yoxiang
room
took
in
the
a nearby
initiative to
hotel,
challenge
or
him.
perhaps
There were
Qi
other
Xiangmei
reasons.
said.
In short,
Anger
there had
flashed
been
in
no
Elder
news for
Fong's
so
eyes.
long, and Hong
That's
Zhu was
right,
about
this
to
was
give
what
up.
he was most helpless
However,
about.
she did not
The
expect
person
to be
who
provoked
provoked him
today.
was Lin Youxiang.
Although a virgin's
If White
body had a
Fox had
miraculous
challenged him and
effect
Lin
on
Youxiang
cultivating
died,
the
they
charming
could
bones
blame White
cultivation
Fox for
method.
being
A
unreasonable
woman
and
who had
challenging
lost
a
her
friend of the
virginity
Devil
had a
sect.
natural
But
aptitude.
now Lin
It was
Youxiang's
not that she
challenge had
couldn't
failed.
cultivate it,
The
but the
extreme
effect
ice
would be
sect was not
slightly
in the
worse.
right. He was
However,
not like
if there
Li
was a
Shanyi.
man with a compatible
At least
physique
White
to
Fox had
cultivate
taken
with
the
her,
initiative to
she would
challenge Li
receive an
Shanyi,
incredible effect.
but Lin Youxiang had
Therefore, it was
inexplicably
not
challenged
important
a
whether
member
she
of
was
the
a
Devil
virgin
sect.
or not.
Therefore,
Hong
he
Zhu
could
was
not
not
say
in a hurry
anything
even
either.
if he was killed.
As long as he could
Even
find
the
the other
Devil
party,
Sect
it
leader
would be
of the
fine.
Devil Sect Alliance
As for
would
when
not
the other
support
party
the
had
extreme
that
desire.
desire,
Lin
it
Youxiang
did
did
not
not
matter
matter
whether
whether
to
to
find
find
out more
desire
about
or
White
White
Fox's
Fox's status in the
Xiao
Devil
Zhen's
Sect
guess
was
was
correct.
right.
The
He
aura
could
was
seek
Lin
to take
Youxiang was
revenge
an
in the
only
future.
when the other
Figure in the
party
sect.
had a
That's true.
desire. How could the
Hong
sect
Zhu
let
let
it
go
because he
when he
wasn't
wasn't
killed
killed
during the
during
righteous
but
demonic
taking
summit?
within a
That
radius of
White
1
Fox's
kilometer,
attack
even if
was
they
actually
didn't
a
act
bit
rashly
ruthless.
on the surface.
And
After all,
that
he's
already
already
taken
taken
action in
sensed
secret.
this aura,
Don't go
which
on
this
this
day
day
when
when
two
two
uninvited
uninvited
guests
guests
came
came
to
to
the
the
demonic
demonic
star
star
he was
ignore the
killed just
pharmacy.
like
These
that.
two people
There
were
was something
something
Lin
she
Xiang
didn't
said.
say.
What do you mean?
Grandpa
Extreme
Chen
ice
had
sect?
called earlier.
Qi
One was
Xiangmei did
Elder
not
Fong's
answer
very
the
important
extreme sect,
customer coming to
and
buy
the other was
medicine
another
leader
outstanding
so he told
disciple.
Hong
Talk
Zhu
to
to
the other
hurry back as
disciples
soon
of
as
the Devil
possible.
Star sect
As a
they should
result,
show mercy
although
to
he
their
was a
friends
Jun
in
of
the
the
Devil
Devil
sect
Sect
when they come out
she
for
rarely
training.
told her family about the
Don't
matters of the
be
sect.
so rude.
Her family matters
also
had
had
the
the
strength of a demonic
After all,
cultivator
she was
at
the
the
person in
stage
charge of the
agent. If that was the
Group.
case, she
However,
naturally
the
did not
sect
choose
thought
to
of
publicize
as long as the
extreme
extreme
sect
sect
to
did
look
not
into
request
store
on
where
where
she
she
would
would
attract
track
others.
others.
She could agree
At
the
the
entrance
entrance
of
of
little
Lin
Hong
Youxiang
died.
died,
It seems
the
like
sect
Chen
began
saw
to
Hong
nurture
Zhu
Zhu
straight
who was looking
forward.
around
Intentionally
anxiously
while
while
a well-known
he could
figure
not help
him
but
out
think
to
that
gain
this little
experience.
demon girl
He
ran
has a
in the
very
demonic
good
relationship
relationship
with
with
the
actually
brother
arrived
Lin
much
Youxiang
earlier
than
than
him.
him.
Now that Lin
However,
Youxiang
thinking
has
about
been
it,
killed with the Devil
he
Sect
worried that
the
judges
judges
of
of
the
demonic
demonic
stars
stars
would
would
definitely
definitely
be
be
the
special
disciples
card
of the
she
Devil
was
Star
also
sect.
Yi
On the other
Xiaoya's
hand,
mask,
because
he
he
just
had
might
friends
feel
from the
that
demonic
desire
star
to
sect
come
come
from
he did
afar.
not drive.
Sect
May I know
leadership
what's
would
the matter?
arrange
Not
this
this
for me.
fast
Qi
as her
Xiang
until
have asked
competition.
Hong Zhu,
Of course, in fact, she had already
I'll help you look
after
after
it.
on.
Said
With both of us watching
Lin
from
Youxiang
outside,
was killed
there
during the
shouldn't
righteous
be any
demonic
accident
summit
and did not say
Elder
anything
Fong
else.
slowly
She
revealed the
immediately
true
left
purpose of his
quickly in
trip.
the demonic star
After
sect.
thinking about it,
what
what
puzzled
puzzled
the
the
demonic
demonic
star
sect
sect
the
the most was that they
He still
still
appeared at the pharmacy
with
with
the
the
appearance of a white
Qi
fox.
Xiangmei had already
If he appeared
contacted
to
Yu
have
Xiaoyan
Xiaoyan
and asked her who the white
it would be
fox
even
was.
worse if he was
Yi
discovered
Xiaoyan
by
also
someone
gave her
with
the
ulterior
ulterior
motives,
disciples
which put
have all
However,
gone
the
into
white fox
delayed
was also a demonic cultivator, so it was not a big deal for her to be acquainted with Hongzhu. If you want to challenge them, you have to wait for them to return. had helped him several times during the summit. But don't take too long. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that he and Hongzhu had some sort of relationship. Elder Fang said it was different for Xiao Chen. He originally wanted to look for White Fox. Came here to buy medicine. If he looks for Yevia, why would he help Hongzhu look after the store? It was obvious that the two of them had some sort of relationship. What do you mean? It would not be good if someone with ulterior
motives
motives became settled at the summit, especially when they were being investigated by competition with your devil star sex disciple. After entering the pharmacy, it's not a grudge, it's just a simple competition, where Hongzhu usually sat. Elder Fang smiled and said, there were no cultivation resources here, so Xiao Chen could only foolishly sit back and take out his phone to browse through the warrior guild's missions. Although he was extremely annoyed, the devil star sect was not as big and powerful as the extreme. He did not have much interest in the low-level missions of the warrior guild. Could only endure it. However, he could post mission commissions here and there. I will call them back as soon as possible. Xiao Chen had never failed to post a mission but let them cultivate. And now he needed spirit. My disciple, Qin Yuhan, after hesitating for a while, cultivator Xiao Chen issued a mission commission in the name of the White Fox. Elder Fang previously he had announced to Lu Jinming that Xiao Chen was his little brother. You have to show mercy. Had been collecting ancient jades for a while. Have no eyes. Now, if the White Fox were to collect ancient jades, then it can only be said that your skills are not good enough. After all, a little brother collecting ancient jades for the boss was reasonable. How could she not understand what he was implying? Issued a commission to collect ancient jades. However, he said that his added a lot of restrictive conditions and his skills were not good enough. Even so, but it was impossible to guarantee that the ancient jades could also be beaten to death. In this way, they would have to meet and kill anyone in a competition. Although it was a little risky, everyone should restrain themselves when compared to the cultivation rewards. If we can restrain ourselves, then Leng Youxiang 10,000 points for a piece of ancient jade. Vice Sect Leader converted into cash, it would be 10 million. Elder Fang said 10 million might be the auction price of some ancient jades in the secular world. Inwardly. 10,000 points was still more attractive to martial artists. Couldn't be considered a disciple of the Devil Star Chen waited for someone to reply. However, if junior sister really taught him the dark for more than half an hour, then he could be considered half the disciple of the Devil Star. Some people even commented that it was very strange. Didn't want him to die. Why would a martial artist want this thing? Since there's nothing else, let's leave first. Go to the antique market. Elder Fang stood up and left with purely a waste of points. He didn't say anything else and didn't give Xiao Chen a chance to bargain. However, they were all the commonly used medicines such as cold medicine, she quickly headed to the place where the sect leader cultivated. Just when he was feeling bored, the door of the pharmacy had already discussed it with Chen Wuxian. This time, it was a young girl him in letting his illegitimate son return. She carried a woman who looked to be in her 40s or 50s. Now that two of the third generation members of the Chen family had died, there was no one to carry on the family. What medicine would you like to buy? Would he be willing to return? Xiao Chen stood up and asked in a professional manner. Furthermore, with his current status, White Fox mask, would he still care about the identity of the young master of the Chen family? Nowadays, for the sake of commercial sales, for a long time, many shops would make some strange props and call this number. For example, in the receptionist and big panda costumes at the entrance of shopping malls and the clowns at the entrance of restaurants. Xiaoling, it's me, However, it was a little strange to see such a person in a pharmacy, but not surprising. Instead, he chose to call his former woman Yang Xiao Chen and felt a little strange. Yang Xiaoling was Chen Huanling's university classmate. Master Chen or Master Lu. The two of them got together and lived together for 2 years. They had a son, but Chen Huanling later abandoned Yang Xiaoling for glory and wealth. You can tell me what you want to buy. Yang Xiaoling didn't expect that after so many years, the young girl in front of him strangely. All these very ordinary. Yang Xiaoling didn't look for another man. People. In her heart, she still thought about Chen Huanling. However, as Xiao Chen's she became more and more mental strength. He could especially when she saw that Chen Huanling had already taken the position of vice president of the Warrior Guild. She felt that she would never cross paths and only people like Xiao Chen in this lifetime. Therefore, Xiao Chen was secretly vigilant against this young girl who did not realize that when Chen Huanling called her, he did not know why she was here. She didn't know what to say or what to expect. Xiaoling, I've let you down all these years. The young girl seemed a little anxious, voice a little sorrowful, but there was a hint of disdain in her words. Men and women were different. My master has a problem with his cultivation. Chen Huanling's status. He is possessed by the devil. About Yang Xiaoling. He must find a pharmacist to treat him as soon as possible. He might not have otherwise his life will be in danger. In the vicinity, the best medical skills were apothecary Lu and you have no freedom in your little Hong's pharmacy. Yang Xiaoling had always felt Chen that they were close to here and could make it in time. She understood the style of these large families, so she had no regrets all these years. However, even though Chen Huanling heard Yang Xiaoling's words, he saw that there was a way. He immediately rejoiced. He was the disciple of apothecary Lu or for some reason the third generation of the Chen family passed away. I talked to my father a few times, and he finally agreed to let you and Xiao come back. I will also give you the status of a co-wife, so if you still love me, come back. I can't get through to Master Chen's phone, to make it up to you and your mother's number. The young girl was a little anxious, Yang Xiaoling, but her tone was not very good. Really? I don't know either. Chen Huanling nodded. Xiao Chen said faintly, let me think about it. If you want to find them, just wait. I'll ask Xiao Tan again. If you want to find me, I will show you. Although Yang Xiaoling was happy, she was used to being alone all these years. The girl glared angrily. She cared about Chen Huanling, but she also cared about her son. Did not say anything. Okay, this young girl's eyes were very beautiful and full of spirit. Chen Huanling quickly said, she should not be ugly, but he did not know why she was wearing a mask. Chen Huanling's illegitimate son, Chen did not speak. The young girl continued, seeing that his mother was very happy. He couldn't help but be a little puzzled. I said, then you just wait for them. Why do you seem so
was
happy?
also a little impatient.
Xiaotan,
You came here to see a
your
doctor,
father called
and the
me.
doctor is not here.
Young Xiaoling said.
Then you just wait. I will show you, but you still
My
don't want to
father?
do it. Don't mention
Who will
that
care
person.
about you?
If it was
Yang
not
Tan's
because he
face
wanted to
suddenly
help
became
Hong
gloomy
and did not
what
want
did
to
he say
offend
to
the
you?
guests,
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Chen
would
don't
have
be
asked
like
them
this.
to leave.
Your
He
father
had
also
only
has
said
so
so
much
much
difficulties
for Hong Ji.
Moreover, he called this time to pick us up and
bothered
return to the Qin breath on this matter. Yang Tomorrow, said, there will be a Fishman
Return?
Book Club at
Yang
Harbin
Tan
University
couldn't help
of
but
Technology. His son
Fans
and
in
nephew
Bing
are
City
both
don't
dead,
miss
and
it.
now he wants me
For
back.
details, see
Is it because
Fishman
there's no one
Prestige
left in the
22.
third generation of the Qin family, and he wants me back?
Chapter 386.
What kind of bullshit asterisk T is this? The young girl snorted coldly.
Xiaotan,
even so,
are you
this
a
is
staff
Mom's member
chance?
hired by this
Mom
pharmacy?
wants to
go back. Xiao Chen glanced
Yang
at her and
Xiaoling
did not
sighed.
answer. He continued to play
Yang
with his
Tan's
phone.
eyes
flickered a
You.
few times. The young
To
girl was
Songning City?
furious, but she didn't say
isn't the
anything
Qin
else
family
to Xiao
always
Chen.
in Songning City?
Instead, she anxiously
Yang Xiaoling
dialed
was
her
slightly
phone.
taken aback.
However, the other
How
side
about
of the
this
phone
mom?
kept
Wait
ringing
for
that
me
she
to talk
couldn't
to
get
Jen
through. This
I
made
wanna
her
see how
extremely
sincere
anxious.
he is.
After
Yang
waiting
Tan
for
said
about
after
20
thinking
minutes,
about it,
the young girl
call him
finally
father.
became anxious.
Don't talk nonsense.
She put down the phone and
Young
looked at Xiao
Xiaoling
Chen.
reminded.
Hey,
All
you
right,
don't
Mom,
know
you
when
don't
they'll
have
be
to
back?
worry about it.
I don't know,
Leave it to me.
Xiao Chen said. After Yang
Then,
Tan
can you
finished
take a
speaking,
look at
he
my
turned
master?
around and went to do
But are
his
your
own
medical
things.
skills good?
He couldn't
The
help
young
but
girl
sneer at the
hesitated
corner
and
of his
said,
mouth. If it's
right
not
now,
good, then
he
don't
really
look.
didn't care much
Xiao
about the
Chen
position
coldly
of the young
replied,
master of the
Then
Qin family.
take a look. However,
The
if
young
he had
girl
this
had
title
no
and
other
the
choice.
opportunity to go
It
to
was not a
Songning
good
City,
idea to
it
drag
would
on
also
like
be a
this.
good choice. If she could not
Before,
suppress
he
her
didn't have a
master's
good reason to go
deviation,
there.
it would
Now, it
become
was
more and
different.
more serious.
If he was a member of the
Before
Qin
he could
family,
return to the
then
sect,
it would be
he
logical
die
for
here.
him to go to Songning
the
City.
medical fees are very
Songning
expensive.
number 2 high school.
Do you have the
Xiao
money
Chen
to
looked
pay?
at Song Huawu next
Xiao
to
Chen
him and
glanced
felt a
at the
little
young girl
strange.
and asked
Didn't
coldly,
you come for this summit?
If the other party's
Now that the
attitude
summit
was
is
good to
over
him,
and it's
he would
considered
also
a
be good for
success,
Hong Zhu's
why don't you
sake.
go back?
At the very
Why are
least,
you
he
still
would
here
not struggle
studying?
with the medical fees. But now, the other party clearly had an arrogant and distrustful
Chapter
expression on
391.
her face. There's a new
Xiao
mission
Chen
from the
naturally did
organization.
not have a good
Song
tone
and
and
immediately asked for medical
Why do you
fees.
care about me?
You. I don't
The
care
young
about
girl
you.
was about to
If you want to
explode.
stay, then stay.
Why are you so
Xiao
greedy?
Chen shrugged.
If you can suppress
Unlike
my
Yi
master's
Xiaoyan and
injuries,
Hong
I will
Zhu,
naturally
there was
treat
always
you
some
well.
vigilance and
I
estrangement
don't believe
between
you.
him and Song
Prove it
Huawu.
first.
It
Do you
might
have
be
the
because
money?
they were not familiar
Xiao
with
Chen
each
was
other.
unmoved.
Xiao Chen took out his
Why are
mobile
you like
phone
this?
and was about to
Are you a
check the
doctor or
Warrior
not?
Guild app to
The
see if
young girl
anyone
was
had
anxious.
accepted his mission. In fact, she
However,
did not
he
bring much
received
money
an
with her.
anonymous email
She
on
was
his
a member
mobile
of the
phone.
pugilistic
He
world
didn't know
and
who
rarely
sent it.
brought money with
Xiao
her.
Chen opened
She
it
rummaged
casually.
through her pockets
He thought
and
it
only
was
had
an
a few hundred
advertisement,
yuan, but he
Xiao Chen
unexpectedly
curled
found
his
a
lips
strange
and looked at
sentence.
the few hundred
Qing
yuan on the
Zhongfan
counter.
Qing Mingqiang
He coldly
Qiao Yuliang.
snorted. So little.
Xiao Chen looked at
It's
the
not
short
even enough
message
to
in his
pay
hand
for a
with a
visit,
strange
let
expression.
alone treatment.
What did this mean?
You?
He
The
frowned
young
and
woman
raised his
stared at
eyebrows
Xiao Chen.
slightly. The person who
How much
sent
do
the
you
email
want?
must know Xiao Chen.
Xiao Chen narrowed
Otherwise,
his eyes,
he wouldn't
looked
have
at the girl
sent
in
these
front
three
of him
names
and
said, however,
"My house
what did
calls
this
usually
mean?
start from a
Qiao
few
Yuliang
million,
had always
or you
been
can use
targeting
other
him.
things to pay off
Did
the
the
debt."
higher-ups mean that Qing
Ledger.
Mingqiang and Qing
Seeing
Zhongfan were
Xiao
the
Chen's
masterminds
lecherous
behind the
look,
scenes?
the young girl
However,
immediately
after
thought of
thinking
something.
about it, this matter
glared
should be
at Xiao
very
Chen and
secretive.
said,
I'll
He
tell
had
your
investigated
investigator and let
for
him
so
deal
long
with you
without any
Oh,
clues,
my master
and
died a
Xiao
long
Yuliang
time
had
ago.
not exposed
Xiao Chen
any
said.
additional
He
information.
wasn't lying. However,
His
this
master
email
really was
clearly
dead.
revealed the
If he
relationship
had to say
between
that he
the
was
three.
alive,
Although
then
it
he
was
could
only
only
a
say
hint,
that the
it was
soul of the
already
elder
very
heaven
obvious.
ancestor was still
Xiao
alive.
Chen couldn't help but fall into
You
deep
scoundrel
thought.
who deceived
Who was
his
it that
master
wanted
and
to
destroyed
help him?
his ancestors?
Or could it be that this email was
The young
deliberately
girl was
sent
so
by someone
angry
and
that she
not the
wanted to
truth?
stomp the person
Qin
in front of her
Zhenghao
to
and
death.
Qin Huanling had
In the
also
eyes of a
received
martial
anonymous
artist
emails
like her,
before,
deceiving
hinting
one's
at something.
master and destroying
However,
one's
the hinting might
ancestors
not
was
be
a
the
heinous
truth.
crime.
Xiao
Even
Chen
more
was now a
serious
little
than murder
suspicious
and
of
robbery.
Qing Mingqiang. I said that
If
you
Qing
don't have enough
Mingqiang was the
medical
mastermind,
fees, so you can use
then
other
Qing
things to
Mingqiang's
pay off
first
the
step
debt.
would be to kill him.
You said
and his
that I'm a
second step
scoundrel
would be
who
to get
deceived his
engaged to Xiao
master
Shao.
and destroyed his
In the
ancestors.
future, Qing
Are
Mingqiang
you
would
crazy?
be able to annex the Xiao
Xiao
clan
Chen
because
curled
the
his
Xiao
lips
clan
and
had
looked at
no
the young girl
successor.
strangely.
strangely. No wonder when he heard the eldest to pay off the debt, Mingxiang and the young girl were engaged. For example, he had a flash of inspiration when Xiao Chen said something was wrong. For a moment. Now he figured out this was because his eyes swept over the ancient jade on the mastermind behind the scenes. There was a faint fluctuation of spiritual energy. He didn't even touch it, but it was already so obvious. What did the Qing family see in the Xiao family? Not inferior to the jade pendant he was wearing before. The Xiao family was not a business family. The young girl's business level was very even uglier. Their family's wealth was not rich. She really couldn't understand why her appearance was so ordinary. Even if he annexed the Xiao family, the attention and desire of the person in front of her. On the other hand, the Qing family had several commercial companies, which was he a lecturer who was so hungry that he couldn't be choosy? They should not care about the Xiao family at all. The young girl's family's remaining reputation was one of the 9 well-known families. It seems that she won't be able to hold on for long. But the Qing family was originally a well-known by the devil, and it was the body has produced a lot of devil energy. They would not covet such a reputation, because it was impossible for the Qing family to divide half of the family to replace the Xiao family and become another well-known family. The young girl turned her head and looked. It was simply an unnecessary move. Her master's face was gradually turning black. This was the identity and status of the Qing family, There was no need to play this kind of conspiracy. Her master's life would be in danger. It took a lot of effort. Thinking of this, the young girl became a little anxious. After exiting the email, Xiao Chen planned to observe for a while. If something really happened to her master because of her persistence, nor did he doubt it, she would not be able to live with it for the rest of her life. The young girl was much easier to find a target. Gritted her teeth. He just needed to see if they would give the game away. I'll do whatever you say. But what made Xiao Chen a little hesitant was whether to talk to the eldest master first. After all, it involved the Qing family. I won't go back on my word. If it was really Qing Mingxiang and his son who were behind it, go back on then he could only send them to see Qin Jinping. Xiao Chen smiled slightly. Xiao Chen was not used to letting the young girl's threat to him live in this world. The young girl's body trembled slightly, but she stood there. The Qing family had not reached the point where he could ignore it. She didn't stop him, nor did she no longer put a clown like Xiao Chen's hand attack her. If he wanted to kill him, he could do it at any time. Xiao Chen's hand he was just afraid that if he touched him, it would alert the people behind him. Instead, it stopped on the jade pendant on her neck. That if he touched Xiao Chen pulled hard and the jade pendant was the initiative to jump out. Then he retracted his hand. It was necessary to design it well. Let me take a look at your master. Used to stay in the pharmacy every night. What are you doing with my jade pendant? After discovering the young girl was a little puzzled. She prepared to temporarily station near the villa to continue sensing your jade pendant. So that morning, Hong Zhu found a daily rental apartment. Then what did you think I wanted? She paid for a week's rent and planned to stay there for a week. He was secretly excited. Just as Hong Zhu really was a spiritual jade, she received the spiritual energy fluctuation and it was extremely strong. Are you looking for me? However, on the surface he asked calmly. Little Hong Zhu, did the young customers I mentioned yesterday go to the pharmacy? Flashed across her face. Why didn't you call me? However, Medicine Master Chen was outside with Hong Yan and was so he could not rush back to the pharmacy. One's body if the young girl who came to the pharmacy yesterday she was a martial artist, so the effect of this thing was relatively handle it in the store. She just didn't expect that when the time came he could use the remote control to ask Hong Zhu to help check on the patient's condition. Was he happy to let her feel ashamed and insulted? However, there was no news until the next morning, the middle-aged woman's Medicine Master Chen. Then he circulated the mantra and used his body's primordial qi to guide the disharmonious demonic qi in her body out. Hong Zhu was a little embarrassed. This demonic qi was accidentally produced. I had something to do, so I didn't control by the middle-aged woman. I asked a friend to stay there. There was no need to deliberately guide it. I heard that the two people came and left. When Xiao Chen circulated his primordial qi, Medicine Master Chen was shocked and his voice entered his body. This demonic qi wouldn't be too much of a problem in Xiao Chen's body. When he came and left because they couldn't find them, he could take advantage of the impact and dissolve it, turning it into the primordial qi in his body. Then it would have the effect of increasing his cultivation. Hong Zhu was stunned. In Xiao Chen's opinion, she did not expect the situation to be so serious. This move in exchange for a piece of spiritual jade. She was not at the store because she had something to do, so she let Xiao Chen look after her for a while. Demonic qi how could she have known that the two people's departure would have a negative impact on the Hong Chamber of Commerce? This was also considered as a thank you to the master and disciple. This is all we can do now. I hope they don't think that our Hong Chamber of Commerce withdrew his hand and said to the young girl Master Chen sighed. Done? There was no point in saying anything else and said it's done. Hong Zhu frowned as she held the phone in her hand. The young girl saw that Xiao Chen didn't do anything, so she said it was done. To buy medicinal ingredients. Wasn't this obvious behavior of a liar? The medicinal ingredients from last time had already been used 3 times. In her opinion, could not be used anymore and had to be pharmacy attendant who wanted to cheat people. In the pharmacy, Xiao Chen saw a distressed Hong Zhu. Stage 10 inner force what he remembered was immediately this little demon girl always had a charming smile on her face to the point of peeing. She had never looked distressed before. Top master. What's wrong, Stage 10 inner force? Did you lose money? This was the first top martial artist that Xiao Chen had seen with his own eyes. In any case, the White Fox's identity had already been exposed. What was the background of these two people as well? If the disciple already has such cultivation, then wouldn't in his opinion, Hong Zhu was on the surface greedy, and he would only have such an expression when he lost money. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. The two guests yesterday were very ignorant. I didn't see Medicine Master Chen. The young girl was so angry that she withdrew. I was afraid that they would be dissatisfied and spread unfavorable news about the Hong Chamber of Commerce situation. Hong Zhu said. As a result, it's all my fault. Dumbfounded. I left in a hurry yesterday and didn't explain things to you clearly. Instead, it was replaced by a normal color. Don't worry so much. Although it was still a little pale, it was obvious that he was cured the girl's master. The young girl was shocked and quickly checked the condition of her master's body. Ungrateful. However, what shocked her was that the disharmonious demonic qi in her master's body caused by qi deviation had all disappeared. Delay your training? Not a single bit. That's why you haven't come for so many days? The young girl was a little stunned and didn't know what to say. This person in front of her, Xiao Chen nodded. How could he have such superb medical skill? Lung Youxiang's extreme one had to know that even the masters in the sect couldn't do it. If there's nothing important, others could also expel the demonic identity to appear channeled into other people's bodies. Right now, both the Li family and extreme the person who the demonic qi entered would suffer qi deviation, so no one dared to do it. They could only first find a pharmacist to control the demonic qi because he wanted to talk to the young sober state. Xiao Chen directly bid farewell to Hong Zhu and quickly returned to the disharmonious demonic qi. On the way home, he passed by a farmer's shop and saw that this process was extremely long. It could take a year or it could even take 8 to 10 years. Depending on the degree of
Xiao
chi
Chen.
deviation and the
Xiao
degree
saw
of one's
Xiao
own
Chen and
recovery,
nodded to him.
the time would be different.
Where did you go?
In short,
Why didn't you
unless
go
it
back
was a
with Cheng
supernatural
Menjing?
being whose strength was much higher than her master's,
Xiao Chen's
only
return
then would
alone
they be able
surprised
to expel the
Xiao.
demonic chi
Xiao
and
Chen and
dispel
Cheng
it easily.
Menjing went to school
Could it be
together in
that
the morning,
this
but they
person's
came
strength
back
was
separately
higher than
at
her
night.
master's? This was
And
not
he
the
had
way
said
to
that her
avoid people's
cultivation
eyes
was
and ears.
pitiful.
Didn't
I went
that
to buy
mean
some
that she
herbs.
was nothing in his
Xiao
eyes?
Chen said.
At this
She
thought,
went
the
back
young
first.
girl broke out in
Oh,
a
you're
cold
still
sweat.
brewing medicine?
Whether this
By the
person in
way,
front
if
of
you
her
don't
was a
want to keep
lecturer
your
or a
formula a
scoundrel,
secret,
he
I'll
had
take
an
a look at it
extremely
for
high
you.
cultivation.
You can't just eat whatever
Otherwise,
you want,
how could
and
he
you
have
can't
dispelled
cultivate
the
inner
demonic
strength.
chi in her
Is
master's
there something
body?
wrong with the
From
formula?
the looks of it, he didn't seem to be
asked
affected at all.
enthusiastically.
In other words,
No need.
this person's
The prescription
strength
is
had
to
already
strengthen
reached
the
the
body.
acme of perfection.
There's nothing special about
Actually,
it.
she didn't
The
know
main
that
thing is
cultivators and
cultivation.
warriors had
It
two
can't be
different
rushed.
cultivation systems.
Let's take it slowly.
Therefore, even
Xiao
though the
Chen said
demonic chi
vaguely.
was in Xiao
Seeing
Chen's
that
body,
Xiao Chen was
it didn't
unwilling,
affect him
Yi
too much.
Xiaoya didn't say
Because the
anything more.
attributes of
The two
vitality
returned
and
to the
demonic
villa
chi were
together.
different.
Yi
They wouldn't
Xiaoya went
clash
to
with
water
each
her
other.
herbs in the flower bed
Occasionally,
at the
some
entrance of the
demonic
villa,
chi would act
and
up
Xiao
and
Chen
cause
took a
Xiao Chen
bag
some
of
pain.
vegetables and meat
For
to the kitchen
example,
to
Leng
cook.
Youxiang's
After
chili
he
demonic
finished,
chi.
Yi Xiaoya also came back.
Cheng
Chapter
Menjing just finished
387.
taking a shower and
But
went
overall,
downstairs
Xiao
to
Chen
eat.
didn't have much of an
Hey,
impact.
I haven't come down yet.
At least the young
Why
girl
did you
couldn't
eat
tell.
first? You don't have any
Master's
manners at
fine.
all.
The
Cheng
young
Menjing
girl
glanced
glanced
at
Yi
Yi
Xiaoya
Xiaoya
who was eating,
and
she was
a
too
little
shocking.
unhappy.
Senior,
There are only three
thank
people
you.
in the house.
He's cured,
Xiao
but
Chen
you don't
cooked
have
a
to
meal
thank
and
me.
you eat first?
You paid for my treatment.
Don't you understand the principle of
said
first
faintly.
come, first
No,
served?
Senior, I know
Yi
that the
Xiaoya
spiritual
ignored it
jade
and
is
ate by
nothing.
herself. It's far
You.
from enough to
Cheng
exchange
Menjing
for your
was a
help.
little angry,
The
but
young
when
girl
she thought
was
about
telling
it,
the truth.
she couldn't win against
If it was
Yi
an
Xiaoya
expert
every
who treated
time.
her master,
She could only
this
give
little
up.
bit of
She picked
compensation
up
was
the
far from
chopsticks
enough.
angrily and fought
Therefore,
with
the
Yi
young
Xiaoya.
girl knew very
She
well
said
that
while
the other
fighting,
party was just
Xiao
an
Chen
ordinary
in the future
pharmacist in
before
the
I come
secular
down,
world. You are not
However,
allowed
he
to
was
serve
clearly
the
a
cooked
senior
food.
expert. Okay.
Did he not have any
Xiao
values?
Chen responded casually.
If she behaved with a clear
Spineless.
conscience and the
Yi
senior
Xiaoya
was
was so
unhappy,
angry.
he wouldn't teach them a
This
lesson.
Cheng Menjing will
Even if
find
he
a
didn't
sense of
teach them a
existence
lesson,
from Xiao
it
Chen.
wouldn't be a good thing to offend him. Moreover, she might need his help in the future. Chapter
Oh, you can say
392.
whatever you want.
He likes to be
Xiao
my
Chen
servant
smiled
for free for a
bitterly.
lifetime. However, he
What's
felt
wrong?
that this young
Are
girl
you
was
jealous?
pretty good. At
Cheng
least she
Menjing
knew
was
how
a
to
little
be grateful
proud.
and felt that
Although
she
she
owed him.
couldn't beat Yi Xiaoya
However,
in
the
words,
young
she
girl's
could
words
command
caught
Xiao
Xiao Chen's
Chen,
attention,
which was an advantage Yi
spiritual
Xiaoya
jade.
didn't have.
You know about
Yi Xiaoya
spiritual
snorted
jade?
and quickly
Oh,
ate a few mouthfuls.
I know.
This
After
kind of
that,
jade
she
is
went
called spiritual
upstairs.
jade.
In fact,
It's not
Yi
the same
Xiaoya
as
made
ordinary
rapid
jade.
progress after the
When
double
worn, it can
cultivation
strengthen
with
the
white
body.
fox yesterday.
However, with
she had to
senior strength,
decoct
this
some
kind of jade
potions
is
to
really not
consolidate
very
her
useful.
strength, so she ate
The young
faster.
girl nodded and explained.
Otherwise, she wouldn't be so
I gave
rude.
it to my friend.
She didn't even
You
eat
have
Xiao
more?
Chen the cook.
Xiao Chen
It was a
asked.
little inappropriate
No,
for her to
this
eat
kind
first.
of thing is not very
But because
useful,
she was in
but
a
it's
hurry
rare.
today, she didn't
The
pay
young
much
girl
attention
shook her
to
head.
it.
Who would
Does
have
senior
thought that she
still
was
need
caught
it?
by Cheng Menjing
Yes, if
and
you
had
do,
a
that would
quarrel?
be the best.
Xiao Chen
How
said.
about we don't take her with us
I
next
owe
time?
senior a favor
We'll
this
buy
time.
our own food after
When
school.
I go back, I can help
Cheng
senior
Menjing
collect
said
this
while
kind of
eating.
spiritual jade.
Oh, forget it.
How do I contact
She's the only
senior
one
then?
left in the villa.
The young girl
And
asked.
didn't we agree before?
Come here and give it to
If
the
we don't take
shopkeeper
her
of
with
this
us,
pharmacy.
it's not like that.
Medicine Master
I'll wait
Chen
for you
or
to come
Medicine
back and
Master
then
Lu
serve
will
the
do.
food.
Hong Zhu
Xiao
and Hong
Chen
Yan
said
will
with a
also
smile.
do. Xiao
Well,
Chen said
I'm glad
calmly.
you're sensible.
Okay, thank you
You're
very
a
much,
qualified
senior.
servant.
I will take
Cheng
my leave
Menjing
now.
was happy to
I will
have a
take
way
my
out of
master
this
back to
embarrassing
rest.
situation.
The girl nodded
Menjing,
and said,
I have something to tell you.
Xiao Chen's
suddenly
calm
looked
demeanor
serious.
made the girl feel that this
He
person
looked at
was
Cheng
not
Menjing
simple.
with a
The
serious
girl
expression
cupped her
and
fists
said,
and left the
"But
pharmacy
whether you
with her
support
master
it or not,
Hong
can you
Zhu
keep
stood
it a
at the
secret
entrance
for
of
me?"
a villa complex
Secret?
with a slight frown on her
Cheng
face.
Menjing nodded
She had
without
clearly
thinking.
sensed that the
You're not
bewitching
telling me
aura
that
had
you're
come
going to
from
crash the
nearby,
wedding on
but
Wednesday.
the moment
Are
she
you?
arrived here, the
Sabotaging
bewitching
Tang
aura
Tang's
had
wedding?
disappeared. Why is it gone?
Ahem.
Hong Zhu
Xiao
had
Chen
already
sprayed a
wandered the
mouthful of
vicinity
water
for more than
directly
an
on
hour.
Cheng Menjing's
He
face.
had originally thought that aura would
Disgusting.
appear again,
Cheng
but
Menjing Jing stood up subconsciously and glared at Xiao Qin. Hong Zhu waited for a long time, but seeing that he had gained nothing, he could only give up and return to the pharmacy.
You're so imaginative.
However, she could confirm that the aura should have come from the vicinity of the Zilla smiled bitterly and said, however, what was more difficult to investigate was that there were not only villas in this area but also foreign houses. Then made it again. Foreign houses were the kind of eating a mouthful of rice. She suddenly remembered that Xiao Chen although there were only a few houses in a single building, Hong Zhu could immediately search each house one by one. She actually ate Xiao Chen's saliva. Returning to the pharmacy, Xiao Chen also looked at Xiao Chen with a dumbfounded expression, looking just like a waiter. He thought that she was going to change to another bowl of rice. Hey, you're so responsible. Who would have thought that she would directly eat it? Did anyone come? This caused him to immediately not know whether to laugh or cry. I sold some things and recorded them down. In his heart there was a strange feeling pointed at the account book. She was once his fiancée. I mean, did anyone strange whether she was at Sundara or pretended to hate him? Casually glanced at the account book, had a deep and special then put it aside and asked. He didn't love Shin so deeply. Oh yes, there was a woman who came with a 40-year-old woman on her back to buy medicine. Regarded Qing Minjing. She said that her master's cultivation had hesitated for a moment. Xiao Chen said. And then? Where is she? Anyway, she had eaten Hong Zhu so she didn't change and hurriedly asked in a somewhat nervous manner. Xiao Chen's saliva was not dirty. She left, Xiao Chen said. If she changed it, she was afraid to hurt Xiao Chen's self-esteem. After
was
all, if she
surprised.
was his fiancée,
No.
they might kiss.
Xiao Chen said,
This was nothing
"All right,
at all.
I should also go back."
Well, I'm sorry.
Where did you go
I'll
just
tell you
now?
after you finish
Why
eating.
were you gone for so long?
Xiao Chen didn't expect that
It's
the young
nothing.
lady
I
would
went to look for
continue
someone
to
to
eat
eat
his
saliva,
saliva, find her, which made him somewhat
Hong
surprised.
Zhu was obviously
You can
unwilling
tell
to
me
talk
now.
about it.
Cheng
Xiao
Minjing
Chen
nodded
nodded
and
and
didn't
blamed
ask
for
any
thinking
more
too
questions.
much.
At this
After
moment,
bidding
she could
farewell
only
to
think
Hong
of
Zhu,
one thing that
he
Xiao
left the
Chen asked her
pharmacy
to
and
keep
returned to
secret.
his villa.
What I want to
Near
say
the villa,
is about
Xiao
Cheng
Chen
Minjing
restored his original
Xiao
appearance.
Chen hesitated
However,
for a moment,
when he
and
entered
then he
the villa,
said, I mean, if one day I
nor
stand
Yi
on the
Xiaoya
opposite
were
side of him,
downstairs,
then you,
allowing
you,
Xiao Chen to
with him?
smoothly enter his room.
Cheng Minjing was
After
slightly
taking a
stunned.
quick bath and
You
changing
don't
his
want
clothes,
Xiao to marry
Xiao Chen
him?
brewed a pot of
This is one
medicinal
of the
liquid
reasons.
and began to prepare
Xiao
for
Chen said,
cultivation.
I suspect
After
that
the
the people
medicinal
who
liquid
targeted
was
me
properly
before,
brewed,
in addition to
Xiao
Xiao
Chen wore
Yuliang,
the
also
spirit
Cheng
jade on his
Minjiang.
body,
Xiao
then
Yuliang
quickly
was
took
just
the
the
medicinal
chess piece in
liquid
the
and began
foreground.
to cultivate.
The person behind
Xiao
the
Chen
scenes
had
is
just
still
broken
Cheng
through to
Minjiang.
the 7th layer of refinement stage
Really?
and had just
Cheng
consolidated
Minjing
his
was very
cultivation.
surprised after
He
listening.
hoped that he could use
She
the
forgot
spirit
to
jade
eat.
to go a step
Her
further.
chopsticks were raised
Of
in the
course,
air.
Xiao Chen
She
didn't
looked
think
at
it was
Xiao
possible.
Chen and said after a while,
After all,
you
the
mean
higher
Cheng
one's
Minjiang
cultivation
is the person
was,
who
the
targeted
slower
you
one's
repeatedly?
progress would be.
Why did he do
Elder
this?
Heaven Ancestor,
It was no
I
wonder
am now
that
at
Cheng
the 7th
Minjing was
layer of
shocked.
refinement stage.
In her impression,
this
Cheng
medicinal
Minjiang
liquid
was a
still
little
annoying
effective?
and pretended
Xiao
to be
Chen
deep.
asked.
How
You
could
didn't
he
talk
be
to
the
me. I
behind-the-scenes
thought you had
person
forgotten
who planned to
about me.
target Xiao Chen?
You look pretty awesome
However,
today.
after getting
Daring
along
to
with
treat
Xiao
that
Chen
woman's
for some
injury
time,
without
Cheng
authorization
Minjing knew
and
that he
saying that
wasn't
your
the kind
master
of
is
person who
dead?
talked nonsense.
How is your master
so
dead?
she didn't directly doubt
Elder
him.
Heaven Ancestors'
Instead, she raised her own
dissatisfied
voice
voice
sounded. Look at this email.
I was just excited when
Xiao
I saw
Chen
the
showed the
spirit
email
jade.
and the mobile phone to
Xiao
Cheng
Chen said
Minjing
with a bit
and
of
then
sweat,
said, Before,
Do you
when
want
you
to
said
die
that
because
Cheng
you were
Minxiang and
excited?
Xiao Xiao were
Don't you know
engaged,
that her level
I
is
felt that
much
something
higher
was
than
wrong
yours?
for a moment, but there was no
Her devil
evidence to
chi entered
support
your
it at
body,
that time,
and
so
if you
I didn't
don't think
resolve
much
it,
about
your
it.
life will be in
But
danger.
now I think about it.
Elder Heaven
If I
Ancestor
die,
said
Cheng Minxiang
seriously,
marries Xiao Xiao,
really? And he can
Xiao Chen
naturally
was
inherit
slightly
the Xiao
stunned and
family.
shocked.
Then
But
I,
Cheng
why
Minxiang
didn't
can
you stop
inherit
me
the
at that
Cheng
time?
family in the future.
But you
The
and
Xiao
Yi
family is
Xiaoya
like
can be
this now.
resolved through dual
If he inherits
cultivation,
it,
so I didn't stop
Cheng
you.
Minjing wasn't
If it was
stupid.
before, I would have
This is
definitely
also
stopped
what I
you.
have doubts about,
Elder Heaven
so I plan to
Ancestor
observe
said,
it again.
But don't be too reckless
You
next
can also
time.
help me pay
Her
attention.
condition can be resolved
Xiao Chen
with
said,
medicinal liquid,
just pay attention
but
to
the
the
relationship
slow.
between Cheng Minxiang
I can give
and
you
Xiao
the prescription.
Yuliang. You want them
Forget
to
it,
expose
since
themselves?
it has already happened, I will
Cheng
go
Minjing
find Yi
understood
Xiaoya for
Xiao
dual
Chen's
cultivation.
meaning. That's
Xiao
what I
Chen
mean,
had
but
an
you were
attitude
Cheng
of taking
Minxiang's
things as
cousin
they
and a
come.
member of the Cheng
Since it had
family,
already
so
happened, there was no
even
point
if you
in
don't
dwelling
support
on
me,
it.
I
Oh,
hope you
right,
can keep
what
it a
special
secret for me.
ability does a 7th
Xiao
layer
Chen
of
said
refinement
solemnly.
stage have?
I didn't have
What kind
time
of
to
person
ask
do
you
you think
before
I
at the
am?
summit. No matter what,
The
I was your
special ability
fiancé
in
in
the
the 7th
past.
layer of refinement stage is still object manipulation.
He was really
but you
targeting
can
you.
control
Why would I
slightly
stand on
larger
his side?
objects. Cheng
Elder
Minjing
Heaven
glared at
Ancestor
Xiao
said,
Chen as if
this
Xiao Chen
ability
thought
is
of her
quite
as the
useful if you
informant,
use it
which
well.
made her very unhappy.
Object manipulation.
Thank you.
Xiao
Chen
Chen
didn't
couldn't
expect
help but be
Mrs.
a bit
reaction to be
disappointed
so
after
big.
hearing this.
This
seems
ability,
to be closer to
except
me.
for scaring
It seems
people
that
in
she did
Shinjing
not
Hao's
care
house,
about me as her
had not been
fiancé at
used
all
in any
before.
proper place.
What are you
When
thanking
it
me
came to
for?
real battles,
It's what I
Xiao
should
Chen
do.
didn't see any
If
big
you want to know,
advantages
the
for
next
the
time when
being.
I go home,
It also
I will
has its
specially ask
advantages.
Xiao
You can
Yuliang to help
slowly
you check it
experience
out.
it. Cheng
Elder
Minjing
Heaven
said,
Ancestor said,
Then,
will
tomorrow,
it be too
your
troublesome?
medicinal ingredients
Xiao Chen
will be
was
prepared
stunned.
according to
He
the
didn't
current
expect
formula.
Miss to support
The
him so
8th
much.
layer of refinement stage
nothing.
needs to be changed.
I
haven't been back to the Cheng family for a
Xiao
long
Chen
time.
nodded.
As long
After
as I
the
release a little
exercise, the
news
medicinal
and hint,
efficacy
Xiao
was
Yuliang
absorbed
will
by
probably
Xiao Chen.
pay a visit. With the
Or you
spiritual
can hint
energy
to him.
from the spirit
Don't
jade,
you always like
Xiao
to use me
Chen's
to trick
7th
him
layer
for
of
benefits?
refinement stage was
Cheng
approaching the
Minjing
peak,
glanced at Xiao
but there was
Chen.
still a long way to go.
I didn't use you.
After nightfall,
Xiao
Chen
Chen
sweated
quietly
a little.
changed into the white
I haven't
fox
even
costume,
settled the score
and
with
then
you.
tiptoed
Who
upstairs,
helps others
planning
chase
to
their
go to Yi
fiancé and
Xiaoya's
still
room.
gets benefits
However,
from it.
when he just
You're
walked
the
to
only
Yi
one who's
Xiaoya's room,
heartless. He heard a click
Cheng Minjing
sound from
glared
the
at
door
Xiao
not
Chen,
far away.
then put down the
A beautiful
chopsticks and
figure in
went
pajamas
upstairs.
came out.
As she walked, she saw Xiao Chen not
next
far
Friday
away.
night,
She couldn't
I will
help
go back
but be
to the
stunned.
Cheng family.
She almost
Xiao Chen
exclaimed,
looked at
but
the back of the
fortunately,
list
she
and his
covered
heart
her
was
mouth in
touched.
time.
The person who came out
worse than
Xing
Xian. She was a
Why
little
didn't I pay
thirsty
attention
after
to her
sleeping in the
before?
middle of the night,
Thinking about
and
it
planned to go
carefully.
downstairs to
Miss
get a
Cheng
bottle
was
of
really
drink.
good, but
Her
her
drinks
appearance
in the
was
bedroom
cold,
were finished,
not as warm
and she
and
didn't think
popular
to
as
prepare a
Xing
bottle before going
However,
to bed.
once he interacted
Seeing
with
Xiao
her for a
Chen,
long
an
time,
uncontrollable
he realized
anger
that other
flashed
than
in
having a
Xing
little
Xuan's
princess
eyes.
syndrome, he was
Missy
actually
was still
standing in
very
front of
kind-hearted.
Yixiao's room,
As for
and he was
Goddess
also
Shen,
wearing the
after
white
being with
fox
him for a
costume.
long time,
What was
she
he
started
going
to
to
have
do?
a little princess
In the
syndrome.
middle of the night, he
Xiao
ran to
Chen
the
was
door
thinking
of
about how to
Yixiao's
tell the
room.
news of Cheng
If someone
Minjing's
said that
return
there
on
was no
Friday
problem
to see
with
what
him,
reaction
Shin
he would
Jingshan
have.
wouldn't believe
If
it.
there was really something wrong between him and Cheng Mingqiang,
Xiao Chen
he
was
was afraid
stunned,
that the
and then he
details
couldn't
would
help
be
but
revealed.
smile bitterly.
As for Tang
How could there
Tang's
be
marriage,
such a
he would be very
coincidence when
worried
he
when
went
upstairs
past,
she
but
came
now
out of
he
the
could
room.
sit back and relax.
Originally, he thought that in the middle of the night,
interested in women at all,
asleep,
so
and
Chen
Cheng
Jingshan
was not in
perhaps
danger
because
for the
tomorrow
time
is
being.
Monday.
The next step was to see if he could get
but
the
he
Yu
didn't
family and
expect that she
Tang
would
family
stay
to
here for
cancel
the
the
night.
marriage.
For the time being,
coldly
because of
glanced at
Cheng
Xiao
Mingqiang's
Chen's
accident,
expressionlessly
Xiao Chen
passed by
planned
him
to combine
and
the
went
two
downstairs.
identities of White
Xiao
Fox
Chen
into
was
one
shocked
and
and
quickly
calmed.
chased after
Originally,
her.
Xiao Chen
He wanted
planned
to
to hold
hold
the
her
identity
hand,
of
but
White
Shin
Fox on the
Jingshan
table during
ruthlessly
this
shook
period
it
of
off.
time, Xiao Chen was anxious and he stopped in front of Xin Jingxian. Originally, Xiao Chen had very few listened to my explanation. Moreover, things are not what White Fox was not a disciple of the demonic star sect would be exposed sooner or later. Let Menjing see what you look like now. After all, he was an imposter. Xin Jingxian said coldly. When the time came when people asked the demonic star sect, the demonic star sect would definitely not call for help, and then it would be even more difficult to deal with if it would gradually be exposed. Jingxian saw Xiao Chen get out of the way, and she walked downstairs. Although his influence on the Shen family and the Xie family might be slightly weaker, fell down it did not matter. Xiao Chen's relationship with Hong Zhu wanted to already convince Shen, but it was too late. As for the Xie family, now that Xiao Chen's strength fell down from the halfway peak of stage 8 internal strength, he was not afraid of him at all. Xiao Chen jumped directly from the second floor and quickly fell to the stairs. However, what Xiao Chen did not expect was that the demonic star sect would actually cover her whole body directly. He did not know the reason behind Xiao Chen's body, but now the clues pointed to the Qing family. Xin Jingxian was wearing pajamas and she woke up in the middle of sleep, so Xiao Chen had to be careful. Anything under the loose pajamas. Qing Mingxiang's grandfather was a martial artist at the peak of stage 9 internal strength, which made him want to turn back and touch them. It was unknown if he had made any progress and decided not to. If Xiao Chen fought against him, the chances of him winning were not particularly high. If he touched her, it would not be worth it. Back in his room, Xiao Chen began to boil the medicinal liquid. Chapter 388. After drinking it, Xin Jingxian saw Xiao Chen suddenly appearing under her. She was slightly stunned. "You're here?" She was a little touched, but she didn't intend to forgive Xiao Chen so easily. Her bare feet were swinging back and forth. If Xiao Chen was an ordinary person, she might forgive him. She was not much different from those young and beautiful girls. It took a lot of courage for an ordinary person to jump from the second floor and become an eternal punching bag cultivator. However, Xiao Chen was not only a warrior but also play with her phone. He could easily kill a master at the peak of Inner Force Stage 8. "You're not asleep yet?" It wouldn't be a big problem for him to be punched by her. Normally, I spent the first half of the night cultivating and only sleep after midnight. Snorted and went to get a drink. Xiaoya said she didn't care about Xiao Chen. By the way, what mission did you issue? Xiao Chen stood up and caught up with Xin Jingxian, and they even offered such a high bounty. "What do you want? What do you want that for?" "I'll get it for you. It can help me cultivate to a certain extent, but I need spiritual jade." Took out a bottle of yogurt. "Have you heard of spiritual mineral water?" Xiao Chen asked. Then she turned around and went upstairs. However, looking at Xin Jingxuan's staggering appearance, Xiao Chen was afraid that she would fall again. Spiritual jade? So he ran over and carried Xin Jingxian, who was a few steps up the stairs. "No, is it different from ancient jade?" He put her on his neck and carried her upstairs. Xiao Chen was a little disappointed. She wanted to struggle, not many but she was afraid that she would lose her balance and fall. The two people he met that day knew, but that was just to scare Xiao Chen. "Oh, by the way, my master sent me a letter today. To let Qing Menjing, the junior brother of Leng Youxiang, whom you killed, he felt that there was nothing under Xin Jingxuan's nightgown. My master is stalling him something like hair was rubbing against the back of Xiao Chen's neck, which made him a little excited between the younger generation. Wasn't wearing anything. However, I'm afraid that his real also realized to take revenge on you. A strange feeling rose in her heart. Then he's definitely not as strong as him, and he still dares to come on the isolated island. Xiao Chen was situation at that time was somewhat similar to this, puzzled. But she wasn't naked at that time. For time for me. As Xiao Chen walked upstairs, the slight friction made Xin Jingxuan's heart beat fast. So she has tacitly accepted your identity as a disciple of the demonic star feeling made her unable to stop. Nodded. Once they were upstairs, for his junior brother, put Xin Jingxian down. Told you that junior brother he didn't do anything excessive because he knew that going too far was as bad as not going far enough. Those who enter first cultivate first, glared at him, and those who enter later naturally won't be strong. Xiao Chen felt a cool sensation at the back of his neck. That's normal, but it's not the case with his hand and found a patch of water. Demonic cultivators are different from martial cultivators. Goddess Shen must still like cultivators focus on long-term cultivation, but demonic cultivators there was still a long way to go for her to forgive him. Those who are talented will cultivate very quickly. Xiao Chen was relieved. Yi Xiaoya said Goddess Shen didn't hate him. Junior brothers are stronger than senior brothers among demonic cultivators. Otherwise, if Yi Xiaoya saw it, he wouldn't be able to explain it. Xiao Chen nodded. Then he's stronger although than he didn't think it was a big deal. That's right, my master said that the elder of the extreme like what happened between he's in the peak of the elder missed stage 9. But my master feels that he should be at the peak of the inner door of Yi Xiaoya's room and reached out to open the door. Although the door was locked, it was a piece of cake for Xiao Chen. Was slightly stunned. After returning to the room, the elder of the extreme didn't go to sleep immediately. Xiao Chen knew that some people like to exaggerate their strength so that their opponents would feel afraid just by hearing it. She saw Xiao Chen touch the back of his neck and take a look at it, which made her blush instantly. Xin Jingxian didn't expect that she would be so humiliated is going on. She just sat on Xiao Chen's body, but it should be in time. She also wanted to see whether Xiao Chen would go to Inner Force Level 9, Her
I'm
room
not
was
afraid of him
diagonally
after we
opposite
dual
to
cultivate for a
Yixiao's,
while,
so she could see
he's
it
just like
directly.
Leng Youxiang.
After
He's just
Xiao
a
Chen
one-trick
went to the
pony.
public washroom,
Xiao
she
Chen said.
returned to the door of
Keep bragging.
Yixiao's room.
Although
Opened the
Yixiao
door
said
directly,
that, she could
and
not
entered
help
without
but
even
admire
knocking
White
on the
Fox
door.
in her heart.
Shen
This
Jingxian
fellow
suddenly
did not
felt
take
a
an
chill in her
elevator to
heart.
level up.
Sure
It
enough,
was a
there was
rocket.
something wrong.
It was simply
Even
too
she
fast.
and Cheng Menjing
When he
would
first
lock
met
the
him,
door at
his
night.
strength was about the
How
same
could
as his.
Yixiao go to sleep
Now he
without
was
locking
already
the
at the
door?
peak of stage 8
It seemed that
inner
she must
force.
have left the door open for Xiao Chen so that
How
he
did
could
he
come and go.
cultivate?
Just thinking about it
Shen
made
Jingxian
Yixiao
sighed.
feel pressured.
I really shouldn't
She also
believe
had
him.
to work hard.
He was simply
Only
deceiving
those
me.
with similar
Until
strength
now,
could be
he still
considered
said
partners.
that it wasn't like what I
If there was
thought.
too much of a
What should I
difference in
think?
strength,
Can't
how
he
could
tell
they
the
be
truth to
considered
me?
partners?
Of course,
Thinking
thinking
of
of
this,
this door was
Yixiao
locked.
suddenly shouted,
But even if the
"Turn
door
off
was
the
locked,
lights." Yixiao's
take off my
alertness was still
clothes.
quite
I'm going
high.
to cultivate.
When Xiao Chen came
Pooh.
in, Yixiao
Xiao
woke
Chen
up,
was stunned.
but she didn't make a sound.
He had already seen
She just
Yixiao
waited for Xiao
eagerly
Chen to
preparing
close
to
the
take
door.
off her clothes.
Yixiao suddenly
He couldn't
jumped
help
from
but
the bed,
shake his head
and a
and turn
dark
off the
flame
lights in
palm
the
came
room.
at Xiao Chen.
Xiao Chen
In
and
Yixiao's
Yixiao were
view,
both familiar
the
with
person
the
who
process.
opened her locked door
After
in the middle
taking
of the
off their
night without a
clothes, they
sound
were
was
ready to
definitely not a
cultivate
good
palm to
person.
palm. Xiao Chen was
Yixiao
also
felt that
shocked.
Xiao Chen seemed
He
to be
didn't
wearing a
expect that
mask.
Yixiao didn't
She
even
couldn't
say
help
a
but
word.
ask,
She
"Why
just
are you
got up
still
and
wearing a
attacked
mask
directly this time.
He thought that
Can't you take
Yixiao
it
was
off?
asleep.
Little
I'm
Yi,
used to
it's
it.
me. It's better
Xiao
if you
Chen
don't
said
see
in
what
the
I look
voice of
like.
the White Fox.
Xiao Chen said, I'm afraid that
Yixiao
you will go
quickly
crazy
stopped
when
her
you
palm
see my
technique.
true face.
She was a little
Is
surprised.
it that ugly? White Fox.
Yixiao was a
Why are
little
you here?
puzzled.
How did you
Hee
find
hee.
this place?
Xiao Chen said,
You forgot.
"If you know that I'm
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Chen,
is my
can you
underling.
kill me?"
The
Xiao
two of
Chen
them
said,
ran the mantra
then
at the
I
same
asked for
time.
the address and
The
came
primordial
over.
chi and devil
Then
chi
how did you open my
intertwined and
door?
began to flow in their bodies.
Yixiao was a little puzzled.
After a silent
Her
night,
door was
the
locked from
strength
the
of both
inside.
of them had been improved
She couldn't
a lot.
open it with the key
Especially
from the
Xiao
outside.
Chen, he felt
The
that he
White
was
Fox
getting
didn't
closer and
violently
closer to
destroy
the
it.
peak of the
It
seventh
seemed
level
that it
of chi
opened with a
refining
simple
stage.
push.
But Yi
Technical
Xiaoya didn't
lock
benefit
picking.
as much as
You
Xiao
want to
Chen.
learn?
After all,
Xiao
she
Chen
was
said,
different from Xiao
quickly
Chen.
open all
Xiao
kinds of
Chen had
inner
the
and outer
spirit jade
blade
pendant
locks,
to absorb
B-class
energy,
locks.
and he also
Forget it.
refined the devil
I don't
chi
want
in
to
his
learn
body
it.
into his own
You can study
primordial
it
chi.
yourself.
So the speed of his
Yixiao was a little
cultivation was
speechless.
naturally faster than that
Why
of
did you come to
Yixiao.
me in the middle
The
of the
next
night?
morning, Xiao Chen left in a hurry before dawn.
I thought you were a thief
It was
for
not
my
that
enemy.
he didn't want to look at
Naturally,
Yixiao
it's
more,
to find you
but
for
he didn't
dual
dare
cultivation.
to. Now he
Xiao
had the
Chen
emotional
said,
debt of
"Don't
Shen
you want
Jingxian
to?
to settle.
I want
and the
to,
matter
but
of
you and I
Tang
aren't
to deal
husband
with.
and wife.
As for
It's
the
not
eldestness,
reasonable to
it was
always
specious
cultivate
but
like
actually
this.
wrong. So
You are
Xiao
not
Chen
allowed to
didn't
have
have
any
any
bad
bad
thoughts.
thoughts.
After
Yixiao
breakfast,
said, Xiao Chen
"My
and Cheng
girlfriend lives
Menjing went
next
to
door
school
to you.
together. What do you think
Xiao
I
Chen
can do?"
planned to contact
Xiao
Xiao
Chen didn't
Yuliang
know
to
whether
see if
to
he could
laugh
leak
or
the
cry.
news that Cheng Menjing would go home on
Yixiao
Friday.
also remembered that
Today,
Shen
as
Jingxian
usual,
was here.
when Xiao Chen
She
came to
was
school,
relieved.
Song Huawu
Well,
was already
wait for me
there.
to close the curtains.
Xiao Chen was very
Then
puzzled
you
about
and I
how
will
this
take
girl
off our
was so
clothes so that
energetic
we
that she
won't
came
burn
to
our
school
clothes
so
when we
early every
cultivate.
day.
However,
Xiao
you have to
Chen
come in
just
the middle
nodded
of the
to her
night
and
and
didn't
didn't
bother
bother
to
to talk more.
You can't come during
Anyway,
the day when
Song
there is
Huawu
light.
was temporarily stationed here. Xiao Chen
Xiao
said,
Chen didn't know what
I still
task
have to
she
go to
had,
school during
but
the
it had
day.
nothing to do
How
with
can
him.
I come?
Xiao Chen didn't want to
closed
ask
the
about
curtains.
it.
The
His
curtains
own
were the
business
kind
was
of
enough
shaving
of a
cloth,
headache,
and
Once
he
it was
didn't want to
closed,
poke his
the room
nose
was
into other
completely
people's
dark.
business.
Yi
A
Xiaoya
class
was
bell
originally
rang
wearing
and the class
pajamas,
teacher,
so she
Miss
quickly
Wang,
took
had
it off.
already walked into
Although
the classroom.
Xiao Chen felt a little
Xiao
weird,
Chen
he
followed
still took
everyone,
off his
took out his
clothes.
books, and
Then he
prepared
sat
for class.
face to face with Yi Xiaoya on the bed.
Then
Although
the two
his
of them
current
put their
identity
palms
was
together.
a martial artist,
Just
he was
like
still a
before,
student
they
in
began
essence.
to circulate the
Moreover,
mantra,
he preferred the school
intertwining
life,
the
and he
demonic
missed the
energy
days
and
when
the
he sat at the
primordial
same
energy
table
to
with
carry
Tang
out a
Tang.
mutual cycle.
However, to
In the
everyone's
darkness,
surprise,
although
Miss
Xiao
Wang
didn't
didn't
walk
couldn't
into
see
the
clearly
classroom
at the
alone
beginning.
today.
The sixth
Beside
senses
her,
of a
there was a
cultivator
tall,
allowed him
strong,
to
and
quickly
handsome
adapt
boy.
to the
He
situation
had
in the
already
room.
reached the point of
He
being
could clearly
handsome.
see Yi Xiaoya's
Behind
body.
this boy, there was
This
another
made him
boy,
feel
but
very
in contrast,
excited,
he
but it
wasn't
was
so
also very
eye-catching.
immoral.
This
Yi
boy's
Xiaoya
appearance was
trusted
ordinary,
him and cultivated
and his
with
height
him.
was very
If he
ordinary.
took the opportunity opportunity to peek at Yi Xiaoye, it would be too immoral. If he was thrown into the vast sea of people, he wanted to take a second look. Directly. Xiao Chen's breathing was masculine and handsome boy entered the classroom. Know what was going on. He attracted everyone's attention. Puzzled. Of course, what's wrong with you? They were all the jealous eyes of the boys. Is it because the mantra is circulating too fast that you can't bear it? Damn it, what is this person doing? Next time, he's even more handsome than Brother Ming. Put it in the middle. Is he a transfer student? Xiao Chen. Skinny monkey said to Liu Zhiming with some resentment. Yi Xiaoye snorted with some disdain. The number of girls in the class was already not so annoying, and there was such a strong and handsome boy. She deliberately puffed out her chest, not as handsome as boss Xiao Chen couldn't see it at all. Don't bother him. No. If he dares to show off, let my gang kill him. Xiao Chen almost vomited blood. Xiao Chen also looked at the two boys who followed the class teacher in a strange way. Yi Xiaoye glared at Xiao Chen and remembered that he couldn't see his class. In fact, Xiao Chen could see him and Qing Menjin. Xiao Chen could simply close his eyes. Now there were two more. Take a deep breath. Everyone and continue to cultivate with Yi Xiaoye. Today I will introduce the new students to you. If he thought too much in his heart, Xiao Chen was afraid that common-looking man walked to the front of the class. The demonic energy in his body had not been digested yet. These two are the new Chen went mad again in our class. Would bode ill. They are Yang
However,
Tan and
after the dual
Xiaoxibi.
cultivation,
They are
Xiao Chen
both
also
sports
discovered
students
a
and
problem.
transferred from
The
Beijing
demonic
province.
energy in his body
Now,
this
let's
time was
invite
very
student
difficult
Yang
to
and student
digest.
Xia to introduce themselves to
The
everyone.
demonic energy was
Please
very
welcome them
stubborn,
with a round of
and it was not
applause.
as easy to
A
digest
strong
as Lin
and handsome
Yoxiang's
boy like
demonic
Yang
energy.
Tan was especially
Now
popular
Xiao Chen
with
finally
girls.
understood what
Boys
the elder
who were
heaven
good at sports
ancestor
were
meant.
quite popular
The
in high
demonic
school,
energy was
especially
really
a
too
handsome
scary.
student like Yang
If he didn't
Tan.
rely on
He
dual
would definitely be
cultivation with
guaranteed a
Yi
place
Xiaoye,
in college
he
in the
wouldn't be able
future.
to digest it at
Usually
all.
when he had nothing
After
to
a
do,
long
he
time,
would chase after
only
girls
God
or
knew
something.
what accidents would happen in his body.
Some girls who were
However,
interested in
after
him
such
became
a cycle,
active at this
Xiao Chen
moment and
discovered
gave
that
Yang
although the
Tan's
demonic
arrival a
energy
warm
in
round
his
of
body was
applause.
dissolving very
Yang
little,
Tan
it
smiled
was still
slightly
being
and walked to
digested.
the podium in a
And what
very
surprised
generous
Xiao
manner.
Chen the most was
Then
that
he
although
puffed
the
out his
amount of the
chest,
demonic
and the
energy
tight
was
t-shirt
digested
outlined
very
his
little,
strong and beautiful
once it was
chest
converted
muscles.
into his own
It immediately
vitality,
attracted
it was
a
quite
burst of
strong.
cheers from the students
With the
below
help
the
of the
stage.
spiritual jade pendant,
Hello, students
Xiao
and
Chen
teachers.
felt that his
My name
cultivation
is
speed
Yang
was
Tan.
3 to 4
I
times
come from
faster than
Beijing
usual.
province in the south.
It seemed like the
This
dual
time, I
cultivation
came to
method that
Songning
he had
City to
discovered
seek
with
refuge with
Xiaoye
my
was really
father.
beneficial to
I
him.
am transferring
Of course,
to
it wasn't
Songning
just
City
Xiao
Second
Chen.
High School to
Xiaoye
study.
was also the
I
same.
hope everyone can
She
take
had
care
also
of me.
benefited a lot from dual cultivation. The night
Yang
passed
Tan
uneventfully.
seemingly unintentionally
Early in the morning,
tidied up his
a
hair,
faint light shone
perfectly
into the
showing
room.
the muscles on his
Because
arms.
the two of them were very
He said,
focused on
I am
dual
a sports
cultivation,
student.
they had forgotten
I'm good
about
at
the
all
time.
sports.
Xiao
I
Chen
hope
had
everyone
his
can
eyes
communicate
closed, so
with
he
each
didn't
other.
notice the changes
Song
outside
Huawu,
the
what's
window.
wrong with you?
It wasn't until the
Xiao
sound
Chen
of
noticed
birds
that since
chirping
Yang
came from
Tan
outside
appeared,
the window that
Song
Yi
Huawu's
Xiaoye came
eyes were
back to her
tightly
senses.
fixed on Yang Tan.
She looked forward
Don't
and
tell
saw
me you
the
have a
naked
crush
white
on this
fox
kid.
and his
How can you
towering
fall in
pillar.
love here?
This made Yi Xiaoye
What do you
a
mean
little
I have a
angry.
crush on?
This guy was
Song
up to no
Huawu
good.
glared at Xiao
What was
Chen
he
and
doing?
said helplessly,
She was so
I know
angry
him.
that she stopped her
You know
cultivation
him?
and kicked
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Chen was stunned.
Scram.
Could he have chased
Xiao
you here?
Chen opened his eyes
Who
and
knows?
was stunned.
He realized that
was
the
a little
sky was
depressed.
gradually getting brighter.
But that's not his name.
Looking at Yi Xiaoye's angry face,
Don't bother
Xiao
about
Chen
him.
knew that his
If he
little
doesn't
Xiao
talk
Chen
to
had
me,
been
I will
exposed.
pretend not to know him.
But could he blame himself?
Why does it
This
seem
kind
like
of
you dislike
cultivation
him?
method was really too
Xiao Chen
torturous for
smiled
Xiao
and
Chen
said,
to notice something. Dislike? Not really. I'm just a little surprised that he
Chapter
came here.
389.
Song Huawu
Yi
said
Xiaoye
faintly.
pulled the quilt and
Yang
covered
Tan?
herself with it.
It seemed that Song
Then she
Huawu
said,
definitely
"You're so
knew this
ugly.
person who
Get
framed her.
lost."
Xiao Chen's
All right
attention
then.
was focused on
Xiao
him.
Chen thought to himself,
If it weren't for Song
this was a
Huawu's
classic
strange
case
words,
of turning
Xiao Chen
hostile
might
and
not
not
have felt
acknowledging
anything.
him.
However,
You didn't
with
say
her
this
words,
when you were
Xiao Chen
cultivating.
found out through
Now
detailed
that you're done
observation that this
cultivating,
young
you want me
Tan
to
seemed to
leave?
be a martial
Do you
artist.
think I'm a stud?
Although he wasn't
However,
100%
Xiao Chen was
sure
afraid
it should
that
be
Shin
close.
Jingxian and the young
If he was
miss
a
would
martial
wake up.
artist,
So
then
he
why
quickly
did he
put on his
transfer from
clothes and left
boundless
in a
province?
flash.
What was he doing
Fortunately,
here?
the corridor was
As far as
quiet.
Xiao Chen knew,
Xiao Chen
Li
didn't dare
Shanning
to
was
delay.
from Beijing province.
He immediately went
Could it be that
downstairs and
Yang
returned
Tan
to
was
his
related
room.
to him? Then
Of
he
course,
closed
this
the door,
Beijing
took
province
off
could also be
began to
fabricated
change
by
and
Yang
went to the
Tan.
kitchen to
It
prepare
was just
breakfast.
a coincidence
Yi
like Li
Xiaoye
Shanning.
looked at Xiao Chen's
From
back
Yang
as he
Tan's
left.
face, Xiao
She
Chen
snorted
couldn't tell
and
his
thought,
age,
this guy
but
seemed
he
to have
should be
his eyes
slightly
closed
older
just
than
now.
them.
He
This
can
was
think
the
of
feeling that
unhealthy
Xiao
things
Chen
with
had.
his eyes closed.
He couldn't tell the
I'm really
specifics.
impressed. But no
In the
matter
morning,
what,
Yi
looking at
Xiaoye,
Song
Cheng
Huao's
Minjing,
appearance,
and Shin
this
Jingxian
person
went
shouldn't be a
downstairs to
good
eat
person to
together.
get along with.
Only Shin
As long
Jingxian
as he
yawned
didn't
as if she
provoke
didn't
him,
sleep
Xiao
well.
Chen was too
On
lazy
the
to
other
bother
hand,
with
Cheng
him.
Minjing and Yi Xiaoye were in high spirits.
Cheng Minjing didn't get up last night, and
Chapter
Shin Jingxian
394.
didn't chat with her, so
Yang
she
Tan
slept
was
well.
still introducing
As for Yi
himself on the
Xiaoye,
podium.
she cultivated
The girls
all night.
below the podium were
Although
all
her
very
cultivation
excited.
didn't improve
When
much,
they heard Yang
there was
Tan
still a
say
lot
that
of
he was
progress.
good at basketball,
Her
they all
state was
applauded,
naturally excellent.
because the annual
Shin
number 1
Jingxian
and number
glanced
2
at Yi
middle school
Xiaoye.
league was about
No
to
matter
begin.
how she looked at it,
In the past,
it seemed that
the
she
number
was
2 middle
nourished by a
school was
man.
basically no match
Otherwise,
for the number
why
1
would
middle
she be
school
so
in basketball.
energetic after
The
attending the
students
summit
of the
and
number
coming
1
back
middle
so
school were
tired?
very good at
Seeing
basketball
Xiao Chen
and had
making
several very
breakfast in the
tough
kitchen,
players.
Shin
But the
Jingxian
number
walked
2
over
middle
without
school was not
batting
so
an eyelid.
good.
She
Although there were a
pretended to
few
go to the
students with
closet
good
to get a
stamina,
drink, such as
when
Lu
she
Zhenming
passed
and
by
Ma
him, she
Gangmin,
said,
Lu
"You look
Zhenming
pretty
was not
energetic.
interested in basketball
You're at all.
Early in the morning
Ma
to cook?
Gangmen was in the boxing
Aren't you men
team.
tired after
He was
doing
good
it?
at boxing, but he was a
Cough,
complete
cough.
layman in basketball.
Xiao Chen almost spat
Cousin
his saliva
Minjing, this
into the
guy
pot.
seems to be very good.
This means I didn't
You're
do it?
single now.
Humph.
Do you want to consider
Qin
him?
Jingshan glared at him.
Jin Beibei
She
said
had
with
seen
a
him
smile.
enter Yi Xiaoya's room with her
Cheng
own eyes.
Menjing was considering
How could
if
it be
she should
fake?
invite Xiao
Moreover,
Chen to the
Yi
tournament
Xiaoya's
this weekend.
appearance was
Her
obviously
attention
different
was
from
not
usual.
on the podium at all.
Back at the dining
Hearing
room,
Jin
Qin
Beibei's
Jingshan
words,
sat
she
down
was
and waited for
immediately
breakfast.
puzzled.
Jing
Who is he?
Menjing looked at her and
Consider
said,
what?
Jingxian, why
Cousin
did you go to
Minjing,
school
you
this
must
morning?
have noticed that there is
Let's
a
call
new
a taxi.
transfer student in our
For the
class.
past 2 days,
right?
she and Cheng
Jin
Menjing
Beibei
had
looked
called
at
a
Cheng
taxi
Menjing
to go to the
somewhat
summit.
upset.
However,
Why does
they
this
had
girl
to call
seem
in
to be so
advance to make a
distracted?
reservation.
How
which
can
was
she
more
not notice that
troublesome.
there is a new transfer
Otherwise, there would
student
be
in her
no
class?
taxi waiting for customers in the villa area.
Cheng Menjing looked
Who
at
could
the
afford a
podium
villa
and then
did not
moved
have
her
a
eyes
private
away.
car.
She said,
Why don't we
"Who
set off
cares?
earlier and let
It has
Xiao Chen
nothing to
send
do
you
with
there?"
me."
Cheng
Cousin
Menjing
Minjing,
said,
you seem
"No,
to have
it's not on
something
the
on
way."
your mind.
Shin
What's wrong?
Jingshan didn't want to see
Jin
Xiao
Beibei
Chen.
asked.
By the way,
Well, let me
Menjing,
tell
I will
you,
go back to
there
the
is
Shin
indeed
family
something
tonight.
on my mind.
I won't come
Cheng
here
Menjing
anymore.
trusted
You
Jin
won't
Beibei
come?
more.
Cheng
She could not
Menjing
tell
was a
others
little
about it,
disappointed,
but she could consult Jin Beibei.
because
These
other
days,
people
Shin
could harm
Jingshan
Xiao Chen,
accompanied
but Jin
her.
Beibei could
She
not.
thought it was quite interesting.
Jin Beibei seemed to
She
be
didn't
closer to
expect that
Xiao
she
Chen
would
than
be
she was
alone
to
soon.
Xiao Chen.
Well, I have to go home too.
What's the matter?
It's not very convenient to go to school here.
You didn't come to me this weekend.
Shin said with a smile.
I thought you had forgotten about me.
Then when you have nothing to do in the
this
future,
weekend,
come and accompany me more often.
Xiao Chen suspects.
Otherwise, I will be bored.
Therefore,
Ching Minjing told her
nodded.
about Xiao Chen's
She
suspicion,
knew that what Shin
including
said
the
was
fact
the
that he
truth.
wanted her to
If
test
she
him
went
on
to number
Friday.
1 middle school
Jean
from
Bebe
here,
thought
it
for
was
a moment and
relatively
said,
far.
"Oh, then
Number
let's go
2 middle
together."
school was relatively
Bebe will
close.
be there too.
Anyway, if
Xiao
Xiao Yuliang
without
goes,
saying a
Chen will
word.
be there too.
She ate the food
You will
that
also
Xiao Chen
remember.
served.
After
He will
eating,
probably
she went
mention Xiao
upstairs.
Chen to Ching
After she
Minxiang, so
left,
he will be
Shin
more
Jing
likely to
whispered
give
to
himself
Ching
away.
Minjing.
Ching
Minxiang will.
Minjing, you should be
All
careful.
right.
She doesn't have
Ching
good
Minjing
intentions.
nodded.
Don't let
That's
her
good
have any
too.
thoughts about
When
Xiao
the time
Chen.
comes,
You will
accompany
be the
Xiao
one
Chen
who
more
suffers.
often.
After that,
What
Ching
does that have to
Minjing
do
let
with
out a
me?
sigh of relief.
Ching Minjing was
At this
stunned.
time, Yang
She
Tan
couldn't
had
help
finished
but
his
smile.
speech on the podium.
Xiao Chen
The
is willing,
plain-looking
he can
man
go.
named Xia Shibin,
I don't want to
who
resume
followed
the
him,
engagement
introduced
with him.
himself briefly.
Now I have
Brother
a reason
Yang
to
and
refuse.
I are classmates in
Shin
Beijing
Jing
province.
shook her head.
We came here
She
together
felt
this
that Ching
time.
Minjing did
Please
not
take
mean
care
what
of
she
me.
said. When she really knew the truth, she would not think so.
Yang Tan,
After
Xia
the meal,
Shibin,
Shin Jing
Shen
called
called
a
a taxi
taxi and went to number
class.
1 middle school.
Then the class will
Xiao
begin,
Chen drove
said
Ching
Miss Wang.
Minjing to school in
Yang
his Land
Tan and
Rover.
Xia Shibin walked
Xiao
off the
Chen.
podium.
Ching
Yang
Minjing
Tan
said,
deliberately walked past Xiao Chen
Chen
and walked
glanced
to Xiao
at Ching
Chen's
Minjing.
side. He
Nothing.
paused for a second
Ching
and took a look
Minjing
at Song
hesitated
Huawu,
and
who
didn't
was
know what to say.
expressionless.
Miss
Then
Cheng
he
nodded
nodded
to
to
her
her
and walked away quickly.
Xiao Chen couldn't
The
help but
class
smile
smiled
bitterly.
uneventfully.
This
After
Wednesday,
the class,
I heard that
Miss
Tang
Wang
Tang
left,
and Yu
but
Xiaochuan
Yang
are
Tan and
engaged.
Xia Shibin went
Ching
to Xiao
Minjing
Chen's
thought
seat
about
together
it and decided to tell
Changed
the news
seats.
to Xiao Chen.
Yang Tan knocked
Xiao
on
Chen's
Xiao Chen's
hand holding
table
the
and said in a
commanding
commanding
tone.
trembled. Xiao Chen
Although
was
he knew
slightly
that Yu
stunned.
Xiaochuan's sexual
Looking at this
orientation
arrogant
had a
transfer
problem,
student,
he was still a
recalled
little
what
afraid
Song
that Yu
Huawu said
Xiaochuan would
before.
do something to
This
Tang
person
Tang as
came for
usual.
Song Huawu, engaged
However,
so soon.
it didn't matter who he
Xiao
came
Chen
for.
didn't expect that
The
Tang
important
Tang,
thing was
who
that
was selling
Xiao Chen
breakfast
didn't
in the
want to
morning
change
market
seats.
not long ago.
What do you mean?
Would get married
You
in a
want to
blink
sit
of
at
an
the
eye.
same table as her?
Did you get the invitation?
Asked Xiao Chen lightly.
Xiao Chen asked.
Smart. No, I just
Yang
got the
Tan
news.
didn't speak,
Jing
but Xia
Xian told me to
Shibin,
tell
who
you.
was next to Yang
Ching
Tan,
Minjing
nodded
said,
and said,
"It seems
if
that
you know
Jing
what's
Xian
good
also
for you,
knows that you
quickly
like
give
Tang
up your
Tang.
seat for Brother
You should
Yang.
stop pestering her.
Idiot. Her boyfriend
Xiao
is
Chen
white
glanced at
fox.
Xia Shibin
Be
and
careful,
ignored
he
him.
can kill you with
You.
one finger.
Xia Shibin reached out and wanted to grab
Xiao Chen
Chen's
couldn't help
collar.
but smile.
When he was with
It
Yang
seemed that
Tan,
Shin
he was
Jing
always
was still very
unstoppable.
concerned about
Didn't
him,
people
but
respect
Xiao
him
Chen
no
didn't
matter where they
understand
went?
Shin Jingxuan's
Now,
approach.
a little middle school
Logically
student
speaking,
actually
she
dared
should
to
be
challenge
jealous
him.
of the things
Did he
between
want
him
to
and
die?
Tang Tang.
Yang
But
Tan
why
waved
did it
his
seem
hand
that
and
Shin
gestured
Jing
for
took
Xia
the
Shibin
initiative
to
to
calm
calm
down.
down?
She
This was
even
a
told
school
me
after
about
all.
the engagement.
Moreover, they
Was
couldn't
she
simply
asking me
meet
to
to
prepare
prepare in
ordinary people?
advance. What are
He
you
looked at
laughing
Xiao
at?
Chen and said,
Don't think so
"Do you
much.
know who the person
Some
next
things
to
can't
you
be
is?
changed.
Do you know
You
who
like
I
her,
am?"
but you don't have a chance. Yang
Jing
Tan,
Shen
what do you
and
mean?
Tang Tang are the
This is
same.
a school. Song Huawu
You
didn't
should be
expect
honest
Yang
in the
Jianan
future.
to be so
Ching
shameless to
Minjing
ask
said
Xiao
to
Chen
him.
to change seats.
Xiao Chen
This
nodded.
made her a little
I will
angry.
be honest and guard
If Yang
you.
Jianan's
Why are you
position wasn't
guarding me?
higher than hers,
Ching
she would be
Minjing's
angry.
face was slightly
That's
red.
right. This Yang
To
Tan
guard
was
you
the
and be
leader
your
of the
manservant.
Supernatural Investigation
Xiao Chen
Bureau's
said.
Team C.
Oh.
But for some
Ching
reason
Minjing
he wasn't
nodded
called
and
Yang
didn't say
Jianan,
anything.
but Yang Tan.
The car came all the way
School.
to the number 1
What's
middle
wrong
school.
with school?
Just
Yang
when it
Tan
stopped in the
curled his
parking
lips and
lot,
said with
a
disdain,
person rushed out
"You
from
said
the
it
side.
yourself, I'm called
Looking
Yang
at his
Tan
aggressive
now.
look,
My
Xiao Chen
identity
thought
is
that
the
he was
young
going to
master
kick
of
his
the
car.
Chen family
But
in
after the
Songning.
guy ran over,
How about
he just
it, kid? Have you heard of the
respectfully
Chen
opened the door
family?
for Xiao Chen.
One of the 9
Lu
families
Zhenming?
in Songning.
Xiao Chen was
Yang
slightly
Jianan
stunned.
wasn't stupid.
Boss Xiao Chen, good
His
morning.
identity as a
Hello,
member
Miss
of the
Cheng.
Supernatural
Zhenming
Investigation
said
Bureau
eagerly.
couldn't simply attack
Ching Minjing's
ordinary
face
people,
was
but
inexplicable.
his other identity,
What was
the
Lu
young
Zhenming
master
up
of
to
the Chen
again?
family,
He
wasn't
was
a
waiting
problem.
in the parking lot
Moreover,
early
he
in the
wasn't
morning.
called Yang Jianan
Could he be
now,
plotting
but Yang
something?
Tan.
However,
In the
Xiao
end,
Chen
Yang
was
Tan
slightly
agreed to
stunned
Yang
and understood
Xiaoling's
why he was
proposal
here.
to return to the
In fact,
family.
the reason was very
However,
simple.
his purpose and
Yesterday,
motive for coming
Xiao
here
Chen
weren't
said that he
pure.
was the follower
It was
of the
only
White
because
Fox.
Song Huawu was
Naturally,
here that he
Lu
had a
Zhenming came
legitimate
to follow
excuse
him.
to get close to
Well,
Song
I am
Huawu.
also the follower of the
I've heard
White
that
Fox.
Qin Jinping used
He
to
said
be my
hello to me
underling.
and told me about
It's a
you.
pity that he's
You
dead.
should behave well in the future and stop pursuing
Don't
Cheng
tell me you're
Menjing.
here to replace
She was
Chen
my
Jinping as
fiancée.
my underling?
If you pursue
Xiao
my
Chen
boss's
looked at
woman,
Yang Tan
how can I
mockingly
live
and
with
said
my
indifferently.
indifferently? Xiao Chen said to
Yang
Lu
Tan's
Zhiming.
eyes flashed fiercely.
Of course.
He wasn't a magnanimous
Lu Zhiming
person.
nodded quickly.
The reason why
In
he
fact,
could get the
compared to
position
being
of the
able to rely
Supernatural
on the White
Investigation
Fox,
Bureau's
Cheng
team
Menjing
leader
was really
because
nothing.
of his
So Lu
strength.
Zhiming agreed
Of course,
directly
he also
without
had
any
the ability
complaints.
to suck up to
And
others.
okay, you go back
He
first.
didn't have any
There is
background,
nothing
so
for
he
you to
could
do
only
here.
look for a backer.
Xiao Chen
Although
waved
the
his hand and
Supernatural
said,
Investigation Bureau was a fair and just
Lu
organization,
Zhiming ran to the
there
teaching
were black
building.
sheep everywhere.
Cheng Menjing
The
looked at
current
Xiao
deputy
Chen with some
director of the
confusion.
Supernatural
When did the White
Investigation
Fox
Bureau
become
was
your
Yang
boss?
Tan's backer?
Oh, it was when I called
the
yesterday.
trash who was
said
kicked out of the
Xiao
Xiao family
Cheng
has a
Menjing
strong
couldn't
sense
help
of
but frown
superiority
after listening. Yang
have
Tan's
no ambition.
underling, Xia
He used
Shibin,
to pursue
was checking with his
Xinjing
smartphone at
Now
the
that
moment.
Xinjing
He
has
quickly
become someone
confirmed
else's
Xiao Chen's
girlfriend,
identity.
you recognize that
seemed
person
that this
as your
person's
boss.
ability wasn't
I really
simple.
don't know what you are
Xiao Chen
thinking.
himself was a little
Aren't I
surprised
looking
that
for
this
a backup
person
for
could find
myself?
out his identity
Otherwise,
so quickly.
there will be people
Thinking
who want to
about
deal
it,
with
his
me all
target
day
was
long.
Song Huo.
I can't deal
Could
with
this
it,
person also
said
be from
Xiao
the
Chen.
Supernatural Investigation
Cheng
Bureau?
Minjing didn't say
Otherwise,
anything
how
more.
could he
She
investigate
just felt
all
a
of his
little
files
weird.
in such a
She
short
and
time?
Xinjing were
If
best
you want to
friends.
sit at the same
If she
table
and
with him,
Xiao Chen
tell her
resumed their
herself.
engagement in
You
the
guys can
future,
sit at the
then
back.
Xiao Chen would
I
be
won't
Xinjing
switch
Xuan's
seats.
fiancé's underling.
Xiao Chen said
This
faintly
made
and
Cheng
ignored
Minjing
them.
feel inferior.
Yang Tan's mouth
Xiao
flashed a
Chen
trace
also
of a
felt that
smile.
Cheng Minjing was
In his
unhappy,
opinion,
but
Xiao
there were
Chen's
some
words
things
were
that couldn't be
equivalent to
explained for
admitting
the time
defeat.
being.
At
Otherwise,
least,
why
the
would
fact
he
that
let
the
him
white
discuss
fox
with
with
Song
him couldn't be
Huo?
exposed for
If
the
he didn't
time
want to
being.
be separated
He
from
thought that he
Song
was already
Huo,
standing
he
in
could
a high
totally
position in
refuse.
Songning City.
There was no need
but
to
he
give
didn't
him a way
expect
out.
that Xiao Ens
Of
would
course,
launch
what
an
Yang Tan
investigation
didn't
on
know
him
was that
because
this
of
was the seat
Li Shanning's
that
matter.
Xiao Chen and Tang Tang used to sit at. Xiao Chen was a nostalgic person. He wouldn't leave this place. Yang Tan naturally wouldn't discuss with Song Huo. In his opinion, it was the worst plan. If he used his identity as the team leader to order Song Huo would definitely sit at the back with him. However, that would be a disadvantage. In Song Huo's eyes, it wouldn't leave a good impression. What he needed to do now was to let Xiao Chen leave. Since Xiao Chen was also from the Songning family, his identity as the Chen family's young master was indeed not very useful. In the school, it was not appropriate for him to take violent measures against Xiao Chen. However, he also had other ways. He was going to pressure Xiao Chen through the school. He didn't believe that Xiao Chen would dare to go against the school. Thinking of this, Yang Tan walked to the school's academic affairs office. Although he had just come out from there not long ago, and it was a bit of a fuss to use his identity to talk about such a trivial matter, he didn't care about it for Song Huo. Others didn't know Song Huo's identity. Even Song Huo herself might not know, but he accidentally heard some secrets once, so he swore to pursue Song Huo. After knocking on the door, Yang Tan walked into the office and said, "Director Su, I have something that I need your help with." Yang Tan was older than the age to attend school. However, he was assigned by a special department to carry out a mission. Naturally, Director Su unconditionally handled the admission procedures for him. He was the same as Song Huo, a person with a special identity. "Mr. Yang, if there is anything that you need our help with, just let us know," Director Su said quickly. "This is the case. I want to change seats. Although it's a small matter, the student doesn't agree. I can only ask Director Su for help." Yang Tan said, "Oh, which student?" When Director Su heard it was this matter, he suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Is this still a matter?" "This student's name is Xiao Chen." Before Yang Tan finished speaking, Director Su's face changed slightly. "What? Xiao Chen?" Director Su said subconsciously, "Mr. Yang, this student's identity is a bit special. I can help you coordinate it, but I know. Isn't he the young master who was kicked out of the Xiao family? If he was still in the Xiao family, it wouldn't be easy to handle. But now Director Su can't do anything?" Yang Tan said, "You should know that this seat is very important to me. I have a mission. Okay, I'll talk to him." Director Su had no choice but to nod. "Okay, then I'll trouble Director Su." Yang Tan smiled and left Director Su's office with ease. In his opinion, this matter was already set in stone. No matter how powerful Xiao Chen was, could he disobey the school's order? Unless he didn't want to study well. Chapter 395. Director Su looked at Yang Tan's back as he left. He was helpless. He couldn't afford to offend this person. There was no other way. He could only go to talk to Xiao Chen. Although Xiao Chen was introduced by the Qing family in the final analysis, although he had to give face to the Qing family, Xiao Chen wasn't a member of the Qing family. Therefore, the Qing family wouldn't be too dissatisfied if he changed his seat. He became the vice principal because of the Qing family's investment. However, because there was no vacancy for the vice principal, he enjoyed the treatment of the vice principal. The things he was responsible for and the office location were still in the director's office. "Miss Wang, call Xiao Chen from your class to my office." Director Su called the class teacher of grade 12 class 1, Miss Wang, and asked her to call Xiao Chen over. Miss Wang agreed and returned to the classroom. At this time, Yang Tan had just returned to the classroom. When he saw Miss Wang calling Xiao Chen away, he couldn't help but smile sinisterly. "You're still too inexperienced to fight with me." He had worked in the government for a period of time, so he naturally knew the truth of taking the higher-ups route. Just like he could sometimes use his identity to order Song Huo.
This was the same principle as the director ordering students in school, making them unable to resist. Xiao Qin just happened to see Yang Tan's wretched smile, and he immediately frowned. It seemed that this guy was doing something behind his back. However, he still walked to Miss Wang and asked, "Miss Wang, what's the matter?" "Director Su is looking for you. He wants you to go to his office." "I don't know the specifics," said Miss Wang. She didn't know Xiao Qian's identity. She only knew that Xiao Qian was a good student with good academic performance, so her impression of Xiao Qian was very good. "Oh, okay," Xiao Qian said. As expected, it was Yang Tan who was causing trouble. He didn't even need to go. He had already guessed what was going on. It was definitely the matter of changing seats. He didn't expect Yang Tan to be so shameless. He knew to force him from the director's side. However, in school, Xiao Qian could only do things according to the school's rules. It was impossible for him to directly fight with Yang Tan just because he had the strength. Moreover, he was not clear about Yang Tan's strength. However, Yang Tan had Yang Tan's methods, and so did he. On the way to Director Su's office, Xiao Qian called Xin Jinghao directly. "Ah, it's Hero White Fox." Xin Jinghao happily picked up Xiao Qian's call. Previously, when he heard that the Warrior Guild was investigating the White Fox, he was really worried for a long time. After that, Xiao En stopped all activities, which made him very happy. At the same time, he sighed at the power of the White Fox. However, Hero White Fox rarely took the initiative to call. If he did, he would contact Xin Jingxian, who knew why he called this time. "Uncle Shen, there's something I need you to do," Xiao Qian said politely. "Ah, Hero White Fox, you still have something you need me to do?" "That's my honor. Please tell me. As long as I can do it, I will definitely not refuse." Xin Jinghao was slightly stunned and then overjoyed. He was worried that he couldn't do anything. Now that the White Fox was asking him for help, he was naturally very happy. "I have a little brother named Xiao Qin. I wonder if Uncle Shen knows him?" Xiao Qin said. "Ah." Cough cough. Xin Jinghao almost spat when he heard the White Fox's words. "Xiao Qin? Isn't that the person who defeated Xin Jingxian? Why is he the little brother of the White Fox? Why didn't the White Fox kill him?" However, this was other people's business. Xin Jinghao didn't dare to ask more. He just said, I know. Isn't he a member of the Xiao family in Songning City? What happened to him?" "As far as I know, Songning Second High School is a school that Uncle Shen invested in, right? The school's director Su wants to adjust Xiao Qian's seat, but Xiao Qian doesn't want to change seats, so please call Director Su and tell him." Xiao Qian said. "What?" Xin Jinghao was stunned. He thought he heard it wrong. What is this? Is this still a matter? For such a small matter of changing seats, the White Fox personally helped Xiao Qian to make a phone call? He was a little dizzy. Isn't this making a fuss over a small matter? Yang Tan made a fuss over a small matter and Xiao Qian made a fuss over a small matter. It even alarmed Xin Jinghao, the school's major shareholder. "Is there a problem?" asked Xiao Qian. No. Xin Jinghao said in his heart. "If there is a problem, then there is a problem with my ability. All right, Uncle Shen. That's it for now." After Xiao Qian finished speaking, he hung up the phone and walked a few steps quickly. He knocked on the door and entered Director Su's office. Xin Jinghao was confused, but in any case he quickly looked for Director Su's phone number. He usually didn't contact people of this level. If he wanted to call, he would call the principal of Second High School directly. "Xiao Qian, come and sit." Director Su saw Xiao Qian and greeted him enthusiastically. "Director Su, why are you looking for me?" Xiao Qian's impression of Director Su was still very good. After all, Director Su had helped him many times before. This time he was used by Yang Tan. Most likely he had no choice. "Xiao Qian, actually, there is something that I don't want to say, but I have no choice. I was entrusted by someone, so I still have to say it. I hope you can give me face." Director Su was a little embarrassed. How could it be a director's turn to mediate the matter of changing seats? "Director Su, is it about Yang Tan?" asked Xiao Qian tentatively. "You know about it?" Director Su was slightly stunned, then he shook his head. Yang Tan asked him to pressure him. It must be because he was defeated by Xiao Qian previously, so it was reasonable for Xiao Qian to know. Thinking of this, Director Su said helplessly, "Yes, he wants to change seats with you. I hope you can agree." "Change seats?" Xiao Qian smiled bitterly. "To be honest, I don't want to change seats. Moreover, Director Su, you don't have to care about Yang Tan at all. Could it be that he has an identity that makes you afraid?" "It's not that I'm afraid." Director Su hesitated for a moment, but he still didn't say it. Yang Tan's identity was confidential. There was no need for Xiao Chen, a student, to know. The main problem was that Yang Tan came with an official document. Without any special circumstances, it was not good for him not to cooperate. At this moment the phone on Director Su's desk rang. Shin Jinghao really couldn't find Director Su's mobile phone number, so he dialed Director Su's office phone number. Hello. Director Su picked up the phone and then his face suddenly changed. He answered a few times and then hung up the phone respectfully. Then he looked at Xiao Chen with a bitter smile. Xiao Chen, you're quite powerful. Director Shin actually called me personally to tell me about this. Forget it, you can go back. Pretend I didn't say anything. Xiao Chen smiled and left Director Su's office. He swaggered back to the class. At this time Yang Tan was already ready to change seats. He even sat next to Song Huawu in advance. Leader Yang, what do you mean? I have a task now. If you come to me it will affect my work. Song Huawu had a headache with the person in front of her. She was very clear about Yang Tan's feelings for her, but she didn't like this somewhat gloomy person. It's not work now. You don't need to call me Leader Yang. My identity is Yang Tan, the illegitimate child of the Chen family who has just returned to Songning. Yang Tan deliberately emphasized his identity. I'm on vacation now. I've already applied for leave. I'm just here to return to my family. Song Huawu was slightly surprised. She didn't expect Yang Tan to be the illegitimate child of the Chen family in Songning. Previously, the Chen family in Songning had offended many people including Qiao En's, Hongzhu and herself. She didn't expect Yang Jianan to be the illegitimate child of the Chen family. In this way wouldn't the Chen family rise again? But I'm working. In that case please behave yourself, Mr. Yang, said Song Huawu. Yang Tan was about to say something when Xiao Chen stood in front of him and knocked on the table. When Yang Tan saw that it was Xiao Chen, his eyes were full of smiles. He smiled faintly and said, "Are you here to pack your things? Hurry up and pack." As he spoke, Yang Tan stood up and gave Xiao Chen a place to pack his things and get out of here. However, he didn't expect Xiao Chen to sit in his seat and not move. He didn't pack his things but read casually. "Hey, what's the matter with you?" Yang Tan was a little anxious. "If you want to pack your things, hurry up. You can drag it for a while but you can't drag it forever." "Drag what? Why would I pack my things?" asked Xiao Chen. "You." Yang Tan was choked by Xiao Chen. "Didn't you go to Director Su's office just now?" "Yeah, but what does that have to do with packing things?" asked Xiao Chen with a puzzled look. "He didn't ask you to change seats with me?" Yang Tan was furious. This guy, is he pretending to be confused? Song Huawu frowned. She didn't expect Yang Jianan to be so despicable. He used his power for personal gain. He actually used this method to change seats with Xiao Chen. "No, why would I change seats?" Xiao Chen looked at Yang Tan with a smile. "Could it be that you went to him and asked him to tell me to change seats with you?" Of course I didn't, but I know that he must have asked you to change seats." How could Yang Tan admit it? He was so infuriated by Xiao Chen that he spoke without thinking and nearly spilled the beans. "If you're so sure then go and ask him." Xiao Chen snorted and ignored Yang Tan. Yang Tan could only snort coldly and walked out of the classroom. He ignored the bell that had rung and walked quickly to Director Su's office again. However, when he understood the situation he was a little surprised. Why did the Shin family stop this matter for no reason? Although the Jinwu Shin family was nothing in front of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, his identity in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau couldn't suppress the Jinwu Shin family. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C was only responsible for the secular families and some secular summits. As for the Jinwu family and those martial arts sects, it was the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team B's responsibility. As the leader of Team C, he had no right to interfere. Chapter 396. Motherf *Ker. Yang Tan cursed in his heart. Moreover, he was still on vacation. His identity was the young master of the Qin family. However, the Qin family was an aristocratic family in the secular world. It was incomparable to the Jinwu aristocratic family. This made him a little depressed. When he returned to the classroom he looked at Xiao Chen with hatred. He lost the first battle and he lost without knowing why. He didn't understand why the Shin family would participate in such a small matter and help Xiao Chen. It didn't make sense at all, but it happened. He had to believe this fact. Looking at Yang Tan's resentful eyes, Xiao Chen was a little speechless. It was really inexplicable. I didn't provoke him, but he started to target me. If you want to change seats with Song Huo. I don't want to sit at the same table with this chick. Xiao Chen was only here to miss Tang Tang. It had nothing to do with Song Huawu, but Yang Tan probably thought that he was reluctant to leave Song Huawu. I say, Song Huawu, what is this Yang Tan doing? He has some ability. He can even order the school's academic director to jump up and down. Do you know him? Asked Xiao Chen. Song Huawu was also a little speechless. She didn't expect Yang Tan to be so despicable, but she was a little helpless. His identity. I can only say that he is a little higher than me. You can figure it out yourself. I can't say, oh, then you can just say that he is also from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. After listening, Xiao Chen immediately understood Yang Tan's identity, but he was a little surprised. Why is the Supernatural Investigation Bureau full of this kind of people? Narrow-minded and abusing power for personal gain? AI, do you think it's easy to be in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Nowadays, many martial artists are disobedient, so the Supernatural Investigation Bureau must open the door to recruit masters. However, these masters more or less have their own problems and shortcomings. As long as it's not a big deal, it can only be so. Otherwise, how can we recruit so many talents? Why don't you join too? Song Huawu said helplessly. Meh. Forget it, after I go, I will become Yang Tan's subordinate. If he orders me to change seats with him, I really can't refuse. Xiao Chen shook his head. He was not going to join. Alright, there are actually many good people in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, Song Huawu said. Like you? Xiao Chen asked. Yes. Song Huawu smiled. You're really shameless. Xiao Chen also laughed. At the back of the classroom, Jean Beibei looked at Yang Tan, who had returned in frustration. She said to Cheng Menjing, Cousin Menjing, look, Yang Tan went to ask for my cousin-in-law's seat, only to be frustrated. Xiao Chen didn't want to trade with him? Cheng Menjing had been thinking about how to test her brother and Chao Yuliang on Friday, so she didn't pay attention to other things. She couldn't help but ask. Jean Beibei said, yes, he didn't. Then that Yang Tan used 13 moves along the way, but he still didn't succeed. Right now, he looks like he's eating sh*t. Shoot. What are you talking about, girl? Yang Tan happened to hear what Jean Beibei said. He immediately burst into fury. He walked close and slapped Jean Beibei's desk hard. He had already been frustrated enough by Xiao Chen. Now that someone was gossiping about him and saying that he looked like he was eating sh*t, of course he was angry. He didn't care if Jean Beibei was good-looking or not. His target was Song Huo. Naturally, he would not show any mercy to her. Xia Shibin walked over too. This was a listening class. There was no teacher and he was sitting at the back of the classroom. Therefore Yang Tan was not bothered at all. He had always been a bully with his capability and identity. Now that he was in school, he kept his old habits. Jean Beibei glanced at Yang Tan. Are you out of your mind? Does what I say have anything to do with you? You know very well what you're cursing him for. I'm warning you. If you talk nonsense again, I'll ask the school to expel you. Xia Shibin opened his mouth at this moment, very much like a lackey. It's none of your business. Don't talk nonsense. Do you know that a loose tongue can cause trouble? Oh, I really don't. Expel me if you can, Jean Beibei said. What's your name? As he spoke, Xia Shibin took out his tablet. Jean Beibei said. Pooh. Before Xia Shibin could investigate, Yang Tan was almost choked to death by his own saliva. He quickly waved his hands, indicating that there was no need to investigate. He waved his hands at Jean Beibei and said, It's fine. Idiot, Jean Beibei said. Brother Yang, what's wrong? Xia Shibin was a little confused. He had been dragged back. Didn't he go to look for trouble? Why did he leave with his tail between his legs? He couldn't deal with Xiao Chen, but he could deal with a little girl, right? Would he still have any prestige in this class in the future? Do you know who she is? Yang Tan said angrily. Oh, isn't she called Jean Beibei? Xia Shibin asked, puzzled. A few years ago, her grandfather hacked a man from a noble family to death. Have you forgotten about that case? I was the one who brought you there. Yang Tan reminded him. Huh? The unreasonable golden-haired Lion King? Xia Shibin remembered. It's good that you know. Yang Tan was somewhat helpless. It was not good to provoke such a reckless person. He would never play his cards according to the rules. Although Team C of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau was responsible for mediating the conflicts between the noble families in the secular world and supervising the process of the summit in the secular world, they were only mediating at the end of the day. The hatred between two noble families would not be investigated if the commoners did not report it. As long as the other party did not pursue it, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau would close the case. Most importantly, it was not good to offend those noble families. As long as they did not attack ordinary people or disrupt the normal social order, they would not be punished. As for the conflicts between the noble families, it was not something that the Supernatural Investigation Bureau could deal with at all. If they could deal with it, there would be no summit at all. Therefore, Yang Tan was really afraid that if he offended Jean Bebe, her grandfather would come to school with a saber and hack him to death. You really can't afford to offend this kind of completely unreasonable person. He doesn't follow common sense to make moves against you. Why do I feel that there is something wrong with this Yang Tan? He seems to have an extraordinary background? Cheng Minjing could tell that Yang Tan seemed to have some connections. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so arrogant or heard of Jean Bebe. Who knows? Cheng Minjing did not know, much less Jean Bebe. He went to change seats with Xiao Qin? He likes Song Huo? Cheng Minjing thought of the possibility. Then she suddenly recalled Song Huawu's identity. He is not from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, is he? Oh? What do you mean? Who else is? Jean Bebe was dazed and somewhat confused. Song Huawu too. I haven't had the time to tell you what happened in the past few days. Cheng Minjing hurried to tell Jean Bebe about Song Huawu. Oh. Jean Bebe was greatly enlightened. No wonder. He is from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Then isn't my cousin-in-law in danger? He. Who asked him to not change seats? He deserves to offend someone. Cheng Minjing sniffed. If Xiao Chen had changed seats to the back, he would have been closer to her and Jean Bebe. However, Xiao Chen did not change seats at all. Who knew what was on his mind? Jean Bebe thought for a moment and said, maybe he misses Sister Tang. I don't think he likes Song Huo. Oh. Cheng Minjing felt more at ease after hearing that. If that was the case, she felt that Xiao Chen was a man of affection and loyalty. All right. Cousin Minjing, why are you so absent-minded? Asked Jean Bebe. Me? I'm considering the test over the weekend. Cheng Minjing was actually somewhat hesitant. Cheng Mingqiang was her brother after all. What should she do if there was really something wrong with him? If she stood on Xiao Chen's side, she would be going against the Cheng family. After all, in her opinion, Cheng Mingqiang was definitely not the mastermind behind the incident. Her grandfather might also be involved. What should she do then? Although in aristocratic families, a married girl would belong to someone else's family, she was still single, wasn't she? What's there to consider? Anyway, I'm on my cousin-in-law's side. What about you? Asked Jean Bebe. Me too. Cheng Minjing nodded and made up her mind. After failing to change seats, Yang Tan and Xia Shibin did not trouble Xiao Chen again in the next few classes. Although he had a distinguished identity, he had to abide by some rules and could not attack ordinary people for no reason. Xiao Chen used to be a descendant of an aristocratic family, but he was no longer one now. Furthermore, he was a good-for-nothing without inner force. If Yang Tan really beat him up, it would be an unfair victory. The first class in the afternoon was still Miss Wang's class. After she walked into the classroom, she did not start the class immediately. Instead, she announced, "Everyone, please be quiet. I have something important to announce." In fact, even if Teacher Wang didn't say it, everyone could more or less guess what it was. This was because every time there would be a basketball match between number 1 middle school and number 2 middle school, and the school would first conduct a selection. From each grade and class, 1 or 2 players would be selected to compete in the basketball match between the first, second, and third years. As expected, Miss Wang waited for the class to quiet down before she continued. In order to relieve everyone's pressure from studying, add some fun to the boring academic life, and let everyone relax, the school's board of directors has decided to hold a basketball match between number 1 high school and number 2 high school. There will be a total of 3 matches between the first, second, and third grades. First, there will be a selection within the school. The outstanding ones will compete in the finals between the 2 schools. Of course, this activity is not compulsory. Students who are interested in this area can sign up. Girls can also volunteer to be cheerleaders. Of course, many students are already very familiar with this competition because it has been around since you were in your first year of high school. Private high schools did not have that much pressure to enter a higher school. Therefore, apart from studying, the school would often hold some small activities for everyone to relax. In the past, the basketball match was basically nothing to Class 1. However, it was different this time. With Yang Tan, a transfer student who loved sports and was good at basketball, everyone's sense of belonging to the activity naturally increased a lot. They would not purely be spectators like in the past. Chapter 397. Sports Commissary Ma Gang Min, please organize everyone's registration after class. You can also go to the sports field or the stadium to practice basketball during the self-study session in the afternoon. Although the purpose of the game is friendship first and competition second, it will be a great honor for the players in our class if we can really win a place. Miss Wang said, I hope that everyone can sign up. This is also the last basketball game for the third year of high school. Those who have never participated in a game before can also give it a try. Miss Wang's words were immediately echoed by most of the students in the class. Indeed, this was the last basketball game of their high school career. Whether they won or lost, it would be a precious memory in their college life. Therefore, some of the students who were good at sports but not good at basketball and had never participated in a basketball game before were also eager to give it a try. After all, whether they could win a prize or not, at least they would have no regrets participating in the game. Cousin Minjing, I heard that your cousin-in-law was a slam dunk expert when he was in Songning First High School? Asked Jean Bebe. Him? He lost the last game to Chao Yuliang. Qing Minjing shook her head. However, he might sign up. After all, he left number 1 high school after losing in front of me and Jingxian. Also, many people have doubts about his basketball ability and accused him of fixing the game. I feel that, with his character, he will definitely fight back. But he is much more reserved now. He is not as arrogant as before. Yes. Jean Bebe nodded. The cousin-in-law I know is completely different from the one you described before. Who knows? Let's leave him be. But I'm worried that he doesn't have any internal force. If Yang Tan participates in the game, will he play some tricks in secret? Qing Minjing could not help but feel worried. I heard that Xiao Qin lost the basketball game in number 1 high school because Qin Jinping betrayed him and used internal force. Oh, it's fine. I have confidence in cousin-in-law, Jean Bebe said indifferently. Qing Minjing was a little puzzled. Since she knew Yang Tan's identity as a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, he must have inner force. If that was the case, where did Jean Bebe get such confidence in Xiao Qin? In fact, Xiao Qin had the same thought. Back then, when he left number 1 middle school, he basically left with his tail between his legs. In the last basketball game, Xiao Qin was dealt a heavy blow by Qin Jinping. Now there was a basketball league opportunity for him to take revenge. However, Qin Jinping was already dead. Luckily, Chao Yuliang was still alive. Before he died, Xiao Qin decided to make a strong comeback. However, the one who gave Xiao Qin a headache was Yang Tan. He was a troublemaker for no reason. He did not intend to have any conflict with Yang Tan, but Yang Tan targeted him as soon as he arrived. Since that guy was also good at basketball, it seemed that there would be another fierce battle. As long as Yang Tan was there, he could not use force casually. It would be bad if he was discovered by Yang Tan and exposed. Fortunately, Xiao Qin was a cultivator. As long as he used the slightest bit of true qi, the others wouldn't notice anything amiss. They would only think that he was born with divine strength. Coupled with some of the abilities of a cultivator, this basketball game could be said to be a piece of cake for Xiao Qin. After all, he did not need to use too much strength. Basketball was not a fight. How much internal force did he need? At the same time, an uninvited guest came to the Chen family, which surprised Chen Huanling, who was on vacation at home. The person was Qiao Enz. He did not expect that Qiao Enz would come to the Chen family to look for him. He did not know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. He had messed up Qiao Enz's matter in the past, so Qiao Enz bore a grudge against him. Now that he had come, however, although his heart was beating like a drum, Chen Huanling still received Qiao Enz very warmly. After all, he still had to be polite. After Chen Huanling invited Qiao Enz to sit down, he poured him a cup of tea and asked, Deacon Qiao, I don't know why you suddenly came to visit me, a person who has been on vacation. What's the matter? You're welcome. Qiao Enz quickly stood up and took the teacup with a very respectful attitude. This made Chen Huanling a little confused. What does this Qiao Enz want to do? Deacon Qiao, you are a guest. Chen Huanling quickly said. Aha, Vice President Chen, no need to be polite. Hey, why didn't you tell me earlier that your son is Team Leader Yang of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C? Hey, I offended you before. I hope Vice President Chen is magnanimous enough to forgive me. Qiao Enz said the purpose of his visit. When he heard that Yang Jianan had returned to Songning City to acknowledge his ancestors, he was a little puzzled. What ancestors did Yang Jianan return to? He didn't expect that Yang Jianan's father was actually Chen Huanling. This made him dumbfounded. The team leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C. Qiao Enz often dealt with him, but their relationship wasn't very close. It could only be said that they knew each other and Xiao En's was also under his management. When he thought about how he had offended Chen Huanling because of Song Huawu's matter, he felt that it was really unwise. His son was Song Huawu's superior, and it was an internal conflict. Why did he blindly get involved? Therefore, when he received the news, he immediately paid a visit to repair their relationship. On the other hand, he also smelled a glimmer of opportunity. Previously, because of Song Huawu's obstruction, he couldn't investigate the Arctic fox. Now, with Yang Jianan's involvement, Song Huawu certainly wouldn't refute. After all, Yang Jianan was Chen Huanling's son, and Chen Huanling advocated investigating the Arctic fox. This way his work could be carried out smoothly. He didn't expect that there would be a glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. Oh, you mean Xiao Tan? Chen Huanling immediately understood why Xiao En's had such an attitude. Yang Jianan's status was enough for a small executive like Xiao En's to look up to him. However, to be honest, the relationship between Chen Huanling and Yang Tan wasn't very good. Yang Tan didn't really recognize him. If it wasn't for Yang Shaoling, Yang Tan wouldn't have returned to the Chen family. However, Chen Huanling naturally wouldn't say these secretive things. He suddenly stiffened up and calmly said the name Xiao Tan. Yes, it's team leader Yang. Haha, only Vice President Chen dares to call him Xiao Tan. Xiao En's laughed. Well then why are you here? Chen Huanling asked. I wonder if Vice President Chen can introduce me to him? I want to meet team leader Yang tonight. Coincidentally, we can discuss the investigation of the Arctic fox. Xiao En said. But I'm not the vice president anymore. I'm just an idler resting at home. Is it really okay to discuss the Arctic fox? Chen Huanling said hesitantly. Haha, Vice President Chen, isn't it just a vacation? After the vacation you will definitely have to go back to work. There's no problem on my side. When the time comes I will give Chu Jingbian a heads up. As for the pressure from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, haha, with team leader Yang supporting Vice President Chen, there's no pressure at all. Xiao En's laughed. Well, but you can talk to Chu Jingbian directly. Just hint about Yang Tan and my identity. Xiao Tan is also on vacation, so it's not very suitable for me to talk to him. Chen Huanling said. I know. No problem, leave it to me. Xiao En's patted his chest and promised. In the evening, Yang Tan returned to the Chen family with Xia Shibin. He was slightly surprised when he saw Xiao En's waiting there. Xiao En's right? Why are you here? It's like this. Xiao En's rubbed his hands and told him about how he wanted to investigate the Arctic fox. Chen Huanling also agreed, but Song Huawu opposed it. Although Yang Tan didn't want to pay attention to these trivial matters, the Arctic fox had nothing to do with him. However, when he heard that his father suffered a setback on Song Huawu's side, he nodded and said, Okay, I'll talk to Huawu. You continue the investigation. Although Yang Tan and Chen Huanling's relationship wasn't good, he didn't want others to think that his family wasn't on good terms in front of outsiders. After all, they had already returned to the family. Wouldn't it be a joke if they had a conflict? Therefore he readily agreed. As for Chen Huanling, he had a smile on his face. Xiao Tan, it must be hard going to school, right? I asked the kitchen to make some soup. Why don't you and Deacon Xiao have some? Let's talk while we eat? Okay, father, please take a seat. Yang Tan nodded and let Chen Huanling sit first. Then he and Xiao En sat at the lower seats. After they chatted for a while, Chen Huanling felt a little smug. Xiao En's attitude towards him was completely different. Xiao En's treated him like an elder. All of this was due to Yang Tan's position, so he was somewhat glad that he made this decision. The Chen family was going to be glorious again. Even more glorious than before. Especially after a powerful figure like Yang Tan appeared. After school, Xiao Chen called Xiao Yuliang. This made Xiao Yuliang very surprised when he received the call. Xiao Chen? You called me? Xiao Yuliang couldn't believe it. Xiao Yuliang, didn't you ask me to help you pursue Qing Menjing? Are you still pursuing her? Xiao Chen asked. Pursue her. Pursue her. Why, do you have the latest news? Xiao Yuliang was taken aback. He thought to himself, Xiao Chen is actually so kind? Something's not right. Yes, but... Xiao Chen paused when he said this. Guyu, right? I don't have it either. In fact, you also know that it was that Li Shanning before. It was all planned by him. Mother asterisk Ker, Qin Jinping and I were all deceived by him. He wanted to kill us. Look, even Jinping was killed. Xiao Yuliang said ambiguously. In fact, he was hinting to Xiao Chen that if Li Shanning wanted to kill him before, it was his own idea. It had nothing to do with Xiao Yuliang. Otherwise, why would Qin Jinping also die? I know that Li Shanning killed Qin Jinping. I also heard about it. However, Li Shanying has been killed by my boss, the White Fox hero. Xiao Chen said, it can be considered as revenge for me and the shed. Chapter 398. Hey. What? White Fox is your boss? Chao Yuliang couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't expect that Xiao Chen and White Fox had a relationship. This was important news. He didn't know if he was bragging or... But anyway, he had to find time to report it to his master, Cheng Mingqiang. But now he didn't dare to call casually. Last time, because Xiao Xiao was on the side, he almost spilled the beans. He wasn't sure if Xiao Xiao was also on the side when he called. So he decided to find a chance to see Cheng Mingqiang in person and then tell him in detail. If Xiao Chen's boss was White Fox, then things would be a little difficult. If he killed him, would White Fox seek revenge? That guy was a ruthless person. Yes, but I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about something else. Xiao Chen said, Cheng Minjing is going home this weekend and I plan to invite a few classmates to go together. I don't know if you are interested? If you are, I can recommend you. Okay. Chao Yuliang was overjoyed after hearing it. But I'll try to help you get some ancient jade. He didn't have ancient jade, but the Cheng family did. At that time, he would see if he could get 2 pieces from Cheng Mingqiang and send them to Xiao Chen. This kind of thing could be used to numb Xiao Chen, so Cheng Mingqiang should support him. Well, about the ancient jade, you can pay a little attention. I won't treat you badly. Xiao Chen said lightly, we both know what's going on. You wanted to deal with me before, but now you don't have this thought, right? That's right. Chao Yuliang quickly said, how can I deal with you now? I'm not stupid. You are not Minjing's fiancé now, and the person you like is Tang Tang. Why should I go against you? You also know that it was Li Shanying who wanted to deal with you, but he is dead. I think we can still be good friends in the future. Okay, one more thing. I will participate in the basketball tournament between number 1 middle school and number 2 middle school, Xiao Chen said. Then I won't participate. Chao Yuliang quickly said. Don't. I will only feel it when I step on you. I mean to remind you that you must participate. Xiao Chen said. Okay. Chao Yuliang was a little speechless, but after thinking about it, it was really not good to refuse. At least before Xiao Chen died, it was not good to offend him. At least, Xiao Chen revealed good news to him today. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Chen was about to return to the villa, but suddenly someone called his name from behind. When he turned around, he found that it was Jing Xiaoquan. Xiao Chen. Jing Xiaoquan walked over and hesitated. What's wrong, Jing Xiaoquan? Xiao Chen looked at him as if something had happened. Xiao Chen, do you know? Tomorrow, Tang Tang and you Xiaoquan will be engaged. Jing Xiaoquan's tone was a little disappointed. Although it is unlikely between me and her, I still feel uncomfortable when I heard that she is going to marry Yu Xiaoquan. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and patted Jing Xiaoquan's shoulder. But there were some things that he could not say to Jing Xiaoquan. He could only say, some things are not transferred according to our will. Will you go to the wedding tomorrow? Will you go? Jing Xiaoquan asked. Me? I don't think I will go. Xiao Chen said, why? I am Cheng Minjing's servant now. It is not good for me to participate in other families' affairs. Jing Xiaoquan nodded and suddenly asked, so, do you like Tang Tang or Cheng Minjing? If I say that I like all of them, will you beat me up? Xiao Chen said with a smile. Jing Xiaoquan was slightly stunned, then shook his head and said, of course not. Who doesn't have a fantasy? But you and I are the same. We don't have a chance. How about having a drink with me? Let's go. Xiao Chen did not refuse. It was rare for Jing Xiaoquan to have this interest. In fact, since Tang Tang left, the relationship between Xiao Chen and Jing Xiaoquan had faded. After all, Tang Tang was the link that maintained their relationship. Xiao Chen and Jing Xiaoquan could only be regarded as slightly better friends. They could not be compared with Zhuing Xiong. Xiao Chen opened the door of the Land Rover and let Jing Xiaoquan get in. Jing Xiaoquan looked at him enviously. I say, Xiao Chen, you are really something. Your follower has a luxury car worth millions. Oh, a man named Li Shanying raced with me and lost to me. Xiao Chen said, the one who was killed by Master White Fox. You also know Master White Fox? Jing Xiaoquan was a little surprised. Master White Fox is my boss. Of course I know him. Xiao Chen smiled and said, didn't Lu Jinming tell you? No. This guy, I brought him to the summit, but he didn't tell me even after knowing the news. Jing Xiaoquan was a little annoyed and sat in the front passenger seat. Where are we going? Asked Xiao Chen. Anywhere. Jing Xiaoquan's face was slightly red. I rarely went to those entertainment places before. Hee hee. Xiaoqun remembered a nightclub that Qin Jinping took him to before. It was near the Sakura restaurant in second high school. The nightclub was called Sakura Sleepless City. It seemed to be a chain of companies. They parked the car at the door and the doorman enthusiastically brought them into the nightclub. Jing Xiaoquan was a little nervous. Obviously, he didn't come to this kind of place often. Although his family used to be considered a semi-underworld family, their family was basically involved in some martial arts and security companies. They randomly chose a small private room and brought a box of beer. Xiaoqun accompanied Jing Xiaoquan to drink, but Jing Xiaoquan's eyes were staring at a picture album called Custom Lady. He was a little tempted, but he was embarrassed. In the nightclub, it was very normal to have prostitutes. When Xiaoqun saw Jing Xiaoquan's appearance, he couldn't help but be slightly happy. Although he didn't call her that, Qin Jinping always called her that. Xiaoqun was more obsessed with Xin Jingxian at that time. He wasn't interested in other women. Although he also liked Xin Jingxian now, the great change in his family had somewhat changed his mood. He wasn't as obsessed with women as before, but if Jing Xiaoquan wanted to play, he wouldn't object. After all, Jing Xiaoquan was young and vigorous and now he had a lot on his mind. It was good to have some fun, so he grabbed the picture album and said, "Do you want to order too? You want to come too?" Jing Xiaoquan wanted to take it, but he was a little embarrassed. "I'm not coming." Xiaoqun shook his head and said, "It's my treat. You can order as many as you want. My stomach is a little uncomfortable. I'm going to the bathroom." Xiaoqun knew that Jing Xiaoquan would definitely be embarrassed if he stayed here, so it was better to leave. Jing Xiaoquan declined twice, but he didn't refuse. He opened the picture album shyly, and Xiaoqun went out of the private room. Standing in the corridor, Xiaoqun could not help but smile. He felt that he had been using the identity of the White Fox to do things too frequently recently. His own personality was a little closer to the White Fox's. Today he suddenly realized that school life was actually very beautiful. It was also good to have a friend like Jing Xiaoquan. When he first transferred to the second high school, Jing Xiaoquan stood up for him, which made Xiaoqun feel touched. As he wandered in the corridor, his eyes suddenly fell on the elevator door in front. He was slightly stunned. Why is the figure in front so familiar? Why is she here? Not far ahead, two women each grabbed one of Kerlin's arms and dragged her to the private room at the end of the corridor. However, Kerlin's footsteps looked a little unsteady, and her whole body was swaying. It seemed that her mind wasn't very clear. Frowning, Xiaoqun quickly followed. Since he saw it, he couldn't ignore it, especially Kerlin, the girl who he had publicly announced that he would protect. He tiptoed over, put his eyes on the door of the private room, and subconsciously looked inside the private room. It was just that the frosted glass on the door was blurred, and he couldn't see the situation inside at all. Xiaoqun had to put his ear on the door and listen to the movements inside. Although the nightclub was very noisy, fortunately Xiaoqun's six senses were sharp. He could clearly hear what was said inside. "Maida-kun, this is a high school girl. I know your hobby, so I specially caught her for you to enjoy." In the private room, a somewhat familiar wretched voice sounded. It seemed to be fawning on a person named Maeda-kun. Red-haired? Lu Litsao? Xiaoqun directly remembered the owner of this voice. It was actually the red-haired Lu Litsao. However, didn't he follow you, Xiaoqun? Why did it seem like he was related to the Japanese? Just as Xiaoqun was puzzled, the person named Maeda-kun spoke. He laughed proudly and said, "Ha, good, very good. Litsao-kun, you did a good job. Student girl, I like it." Red-haired is quite familiar with this, but why does this chick look so familiar? The person who spoke was actually Medicine Master Sunday. Xiaoqun immediately recognized his voice. "Medicine Master Sun, isn't this chick Kerlin? Did you forget?" Red-haired quickly explained. During this period, Red-haired had left Yu Xiaochuan and turned to work for Sun Yukai. There was no other reason. In his opinion, Yu Xiaochuan was simply 2F** king scary. He was neither a man nor a woman and was eccentric. Red-haired felt uncomfortable seeing him, so he found an excuse to say that Sun Yukai was looking for him and left. As for Yu Xiaochuan, he was so busy with the engagement that he was dizzy. He didn't need Red-haired at all. If he wanted to leave, then leave. He also gave the transgender Xiao Su to Red-haired. Yu Xiaochuan also didn't tell Red-haired the truth. He let him go back and continue playing. This disgusting thing was found by Red-haired, so he also let Red-haired be disgusted. Now, other than being busy with his own matters, Yu Xiaochuan wanted to get close to Hero White Fox. He had no time to bother with Red-haired. So when Red-haired wanted to leave, he didn't stop him. Chapter 399. However, Red Hair didn't lie to you, Xiaochuan. It just so happened that Medicine Master Sun had been talking to him about something recently. It seemed that he was colluding with a foreign force to deceive others. As a matter of fact, he had come into contact with the other party today. Oh, Kerlin? Good, very good. Medicine Master Sun hated Kerlin quite a bit. Back then, this girl was the fuse that caused the death of the Sun family. Now that she was given to Maeda-kun as a gift, it could be considered as making the best use of her. Maeda-kun, let's talk business first. After we're done, we can go have fun. The person who spoke had a voice that Xiaochen was still very familiar with. It was actually Xie from the Xie family. This made Xiaochen a little confused. It wasn't surprising that Red Hair and Medicine Master Sun were together. After all, Red Hair had left the Sun family. It was normal for him to return. But Xie, the Xie family should be enemies with the Sun family. Why did Xie come over to join in the fun? From what he said, it seemed that he was a relatively important person here. Otherwise he wouldn't have said that. Xie, there's no hurry. I don't have time to have fun. The partner you introduced to me is not bad. He knows my thoughts. That's great. Maeda-kun said, I'll play with Miss Hua first, then we'll talk about business. Xie, since Maeda-kun said so, let's have fun first. Medicine Master Sun said, let's pick a few ladies and have fun together. Red Hair, go and arrange it. Okay, Medicine Master Sun. Red Hair nodded and picked up the custom ladies album. As for Maeda-kun, he rubbed his hands and walked to Kerlin on the sofa. Xiaochen originally wanted to hear what these people wanted to do together. Although it didn't seem to have much to do with him, he had a good relationship with the Xie family after all. As a member of the Xie family, Xie mixed with the Sun family and the Islanders. He wouldn't believe that there was no conspiracy. However, he couldn't continue listening now. This Maeda-kun obviously wanted to deal with Kerlin first, so Xiaochen had to make a move. However, what worried Xiaochen was that he didn't wear the white fox mask. If he rushed in with Xiaochen's identity, he could only kill them all. Although there was no problem with killing all these people, this was a nightclub after all. Furthermore, it was hard to say if there were any surveillance cameras in the private rooms. Xiaochen was not sure if there were any martial artists inside. At least, the two women who were responsible for holding Kerlin just now, Xiaochen felt a murderous aura from them. They should be martial artists. Therefore, if he couldn't kill all these people at once as long as one escaped, Xiaochen's identity would be exposed. What should I do? Xiaochen was suddenly in a dilemma. In the room, Maeda-kun's lewd laughter had already come out. If he was one step late, Kerlin would be in trouble. Forget it. Xiaochen gritted his teeth and transformed his face into Yang Tan's appearance. Although it could only last for a while, it was enough. No matter how Xiaochen thought about it, the only person he could think of who was strong enough for him to frame was Yang Tan. Brother Yang, don't blame me for offending people for you. Who asked you to find trouble with me on the first day of school? If you didn't find trouble with me today, I really couldn't pretend to be you. Bang! With a loud noise, Xiaochen kicked open the door of the room and rushed in. The people in the private room were startled by the sudden loud noise, especially Maeda-kun, who was about to pounce on Lin Kurer, who was on the sofa. In the end, he was so frightened by the super loud noise behind him that he became impotent. He lost all desire and turned around to look at the situation at the door in a daze. Who are you? You don't want to live? Red Hair was, after all, a gangster. His reaction was even faster than those martial artists. He was very skilled at dealing with matters like this. He pointed at Yang Tan and scolded angrily, You drank too much, didn't you? Do you know who I am? Xiaochen ignored him and walked straight into the room. He kicked Maeda-kun and made him stagger. Then he picked up Kerlin from the sofa. However, the two women who were holding Kerlin had already reacted. Each of them had a sharp sword pointed at Xiaochen. One of them said to Xiaochen coldly, Put her down and I'll leave your corpse intact. I'm on vacation and don't want to cause trouble. However, I like this girl. After saying that, Xiaochen walked toward the door without a care. Do it. The woman who spoke gave the other woman a look and was about to intercept and kill Xiaochen. Wait. However, Medicine Master Sun suddenly spoke. He waved his hand and stopped the two women. Then he said, Let him go. The two women were a little puzzled. However, this was the other party's territory, and Medicine Master Sun was a powerful person here. Since he said so, they had no reason not to listen. Xiaochen was also a little puzzled as to why Medicine Master Sun spoke for him at such a critical moment. Although the two women were almost at the 6th stage of inner force, and it was very easy for Xiaochen to deal with them, it was not so easy to deal with two of them at the same time. Moreover, Xiaochen did not want to kill people now. If no one died, then everything would be fine. If someone died, then they would definitely find Yang Tan. As long as they questioned Yang Tan and found out that he did not know Lin Kuo at all, or could provide an alibi, then things would become complicated. Although they might not necessarily suspect Xiao Qin did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. He swaggered out of the private room and no one stopped him. Xiao Qin quickened his pace and entered the elevator. He was relieved. In the private room, Maeda-kun also got up from the ground and said angrily, "Medicine Master's son, why didn't you let my bodyguards keep him?" "Your bodyguards couldn't keep him." Medicine Master's son shook his head. The reason why he spoke up for Xiao Qin was because he recognized Yang Tan's identity. Chen Huanling had been a hot topic in the warrior guild recently. He had offended Song Huawu and Xiao En's, so he was sent home on leave. These things were the gossip of the warrior guild after tea. However, Chen Huanling suddenly recognized an illegitimate son, and this illegitimate son turned out to be the patriarch of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C, Yang Jianan. This matter also caused a stir in the entire Songning warrior guild. Medicine Master's son naturally heard about it, and he specially looked up Yang Jianan's information, so he had some impression of him. Previously, when Xiao Qin broke in, he felt that Xiao Qin looked familiar, but he did not recognize him. After all, he had only taken a look at Yang Jianan's photo, and he had not seen him in person. However, later, when Xiao Qin said that he was on leave, Medicine Master's son suddenly thought of Yang Jianan. When he recalled, Yang Jianan indeed matched the person in the photo. That was why he hurriedly stopped Maeda-kun's 2 bodyguards because they were no match for Yang Jianan. "What do you mean? Medicine Master's son, do you mean that you know this person and he has a great background?" Maeda-kun was not stupid, and he immediately understood Medicine Master's son's hint. "His name is Yang Jianan, the leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C of the Warrior Management Department. I wonder if Maeda-kun knows about this organization?" Medicine Master's son explained. "The Supernatural Investigation Bureau?" His expression suddenly changed. Although he was the chairman of the Sakura Entertainment Group, he had a secret mission, so when he heard about the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, he immediately felt a little unnatural. His people had fought with the Supernatural Investigation Bureau several times, and in general, Maeda-kun's side was at a disadvantage. "It seems that Maeda-kun knows about it, so let's forget about this matter. We can't afford to offend this person," Medicine Master's son said. "Okay, then I'll listen to Medicine Master's son and forget about it." Maeda-kun nodded. "However, there are no more beautiful girls. I'm very bored. Let's drink." Red Hair and Xie Chen were a little speechless. They had just chosen a few good courtesans and were about to call them over to have fun. Who would have thought that Maeda-kun would start drinking again? Xie Chen could not help but say, "Maeda-kun, your 2 subordinates are also rare beauties. Why don't—" However, before Xie Chen could finish his words, a sharp sword was placed on his neck. He was so scared that he lost all desire and thought about nothing. "Let's talk about it." "What do you mean?" "Although these 2 are my bodyguards, they are from the group headquarters," Maeda-kun explained. "In fact, these 2 people were also sent by the higher-ups to monitor him. How dare he move?" Oh. Xie Chen nodded quickly and said with a bitter face, "Okay. Let's drink. Let's drink." Only then did the sharp sword move away. Xie Chen heaved a sigh of relief. At the side, the red-haired man no longer dared to speak carelessly. He carefully raised his wine cup. Previously he was still interested in the 2 beauties. He thought that after Maeda-kun enjoyed himself on Lin Kuo's body, he could give his subordinates to play with. However, from the looks of it now, these 2 subordinates were not worth playing with. With Kerlin, Xiao Qin could not go home. He hesitated and put her in the car. Xiao Qin went directly to Tang Tang's previous residence. Xiao Qin remembered that Tang Tang said before that she paid a year's rent for her house. Although she went home, the house was temporarily empty. Xiao Qin did not have a key, but he did not need a key to open the door. This girl seemed to be drugged. Although Xiao Qin could help her resolve it, he needed a temporary place to go. Xiao Qin wanted to leave the nightclub as soon as possible. It would not be good if Medicine Master's son and the others followed him out. Thinking of this, Xiao Qin quickly started the car and went to the place where Tang Tang lived before. It was near the Morning Street, not too far from here. It was about a 10-minute drive. Xiao Qin heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that no one was following them in the rearview mirror. Chapter 400. With great familiarity he arrived at the place where Tang Tang stayed. Xiao Qin used his yuan qi to open the door. He carried the unconscious Lin Ke and placed her on Tang Tang's bed. After checking her condition, he put his hand on her wrist and ran the mantra. A stream of primordial qi quickly entered Ke Lin's body and quickly helped her dissolve the knockout powder in her body. And, softly moaning, Lin Ke slowly opened her eyes. However, her entire body was sore and powerless, and her mind was still a little muddled. Subconsciously, she felt as if she was lying on a bed, and in front of her was a tall figure, causing her to be instantly shocked. "Oh, what are you doing?" Ke Lin's whole body trembled, and she almost woke up at this moment. She quickly hugged her arms and curled up on the bed. She was a little scared and didn't dare to look at Xiao Qin. She felt so scared. Xiao Qin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She only felt scared after being sold. Why was Ke Lin always so careless? He couldn't help but say, "Ke Lin, it's me." When Lin Ke heard the familiar voice, she finally lifted her head. Seeing that it was Xiao Qin, she could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Although she felt that Xiao Qin was an evil person who killed without batting an eyelid, he did not have any ill intentions towards her. Knowing that he couldn't harm her, and had instead helped her time and time again, Lin Ke's heart was filled with gratitude towards Xiao Qin. It was just that Xiao Qin's evil deeds caused her to not dare to have too much contact with him. But at least her mood calmed down. She glanced around and immediately found that it was Tang Tang's sister's house that she had been to before. The man who took her away from school was not here. "Xiao Qin, why did you bring me here? You saved me?" "No, it was the man wearing the fox mask who saved you. He is my boss and I took you from him." Xiao Qin said, "You were sold to a nightclub, didn't you know? What did you do?" After listening to Xiao Qin's words, Ke Lin couldn't help but smile. White Fox, wasn't it, Xiao Qin? This guy lied in front of me and I know everything. However, when thinking of this, Ke Lin didn't dare to laugh because the White Fox was so cruel. If she knew the truth, would he kill her? Although Ke Lin felt that Xiao Qin was still very good to her, she was too timid. "What the hell is going on?" asked Xiao Qin. That's. Ke Lin saw that Xiao Qin didn't see the smile in her eyes and suddenly felt relieved. "The person in charge of the event, where I was the spokesperson, found me and said that he had something to talk to me about. I didn't guard against it, so I went to the car with him. I thought, after all, I took his bonus and he wanted to talk to me about something, so I couldn't refuse. There were 2 other girls sitting in the car, so I didn't feel anything was wrong. But when I got into the car, I smelled a special smell and then I didn't know anything." "Do you know who the person in charge was?" Xiao Qin was a little disappointed. "That person was Red Hair. He always wanted to kidnap you, didn't you know?" "It's him." Ke Lin was suddenly shocked and carefully recalled, "Wasn't it?" The 2 people looked similar, but one dressed very gently and the other had red hair. It was normal that Ke Lin didn't think of them as the same person. "Forget it. You should be careful in the future. Don't always trust others easily. Take out your guard against me and you won't be in so much danger." Xiao Qin glared at the little girl. Ke Lin was a little embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Xiao Qin. I misunderstood you a little before. Actually, I know that you are very good to me. It's good that you know." Xiao Qin smiled. But, I really wasn't ready to be your lover." Ke Lin summoned her courage and stuttered, "I think, the distance between us is too far. You don't understand my life." "I don't understand your life." Xiao Qin was stunned by Ke Lin's words. Does this little girl still think that I want to find her as a little lover? However, it was no wonder. In order to protect her, Xiao Qin had declared his sovereignty several times in the school, so it was reasonable for Ke Lin to misunderstand him. He couldn't help but have a wicked thought. Why don't I understand your life? Don't forget that I also sold breakfast for a long time. Then I. Ke Lin wanted to say, I'm an ordinary girl. If I really get together with you, even if it's just as a lover, I will be scared to death every day. How could I experience fighting and killing every day? Thinking about it is too scary. Okay, you go take a shower. Xiao Qin waved his hand and said. Shower. Ke Lin's eyes widened. What does Xiao Qin mean? He wants to be with me now, but didn't I tell him? Did I say it in vain? She couldn't help but be a little nervous. Xiao Qin, although you helped me several times, you also helped my family, but I really wasn't ready, and what are you thinking? Xiao Qin looked at Lin Ke's appearance and slapped his forehead. What I mean is, since you're fine now, go take a shower and rest to recover your strength. You're covered in the smell of smoke and you look haggard. When you get back, your mother will definitely ask you about it.
You don't want her to worry, right? Ah, so it's like that. Lin Kuo instantly felt a little embarrassed. She pinched her fingers, pursed her lips and said apologetically, I'm sorry Xiao Chen, I misunderstood you. Well, go take a shower. It's getting late. Xiao Chen interrupted Lin's words. Okay. Lin Kuo stood up and quickly ran in the direction of the washroom. Although Tang Tang's place was a little shabby, it had a temporary washroom that could heat up quickly. Lin Kuo's home wasn't much better than this place, so she wasn't picky. About 15 minutes later, Lin came back dressed. She had just taken a hot shower. Her hair was still wet with water droplets hanging on it. Her little face was also red, which was very lovely. Lin was the kind of girl from a humble family. She was a girl that people couldn't help but feel pity for. Xiao Chen helped her without thinking of anything in return. He just regarded it as a habit. Let's go. Turn on the heater in the car. The water stains will probably dry when you get home. Xiao Chen stood up and said. Well? Lin found that Xiao Chen seemed to really help her, and there was no other purpose. This made Lin's heart a little tangled. Was actually a good person. Although he often killed people, those who he killed were all evil people. She shouldn't be so afraid of him. The two went downstairs and got in the car. Xiao Chen only saw a flash as if someone was taking pictures. He turned around and saw a figure quickly disappeared in the corner. Xiao Chen furrowed his brows. He wanted to chase after her to find out what was going on, but when he considered that Lin Kuo was still by his side, he was afraid that it was a ploy to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Right now even he was afraid. This Lin Kuo's luck was simply too bad. She was kidnapped every day, and when he was with her, he didn't even dare to leave her side. Therefore Xiao Chen just let the person go. He didn't care. He started the car and drove in the direction of Shanty Town. Don't trust strangers so easily in the future. Xiao Chen said, if you are short of money, tell me. Don't participate in those activities. Oh. Lin thought, how do I tell you? If I want your money, isn't it equivalent to being supported by you? However, what Xiao Chen said was right. She had to learn to be smarter in the future. Don't trust people so easily. Otherwise she would be cheated again. Fortunately she met Xiao Chen this time. Otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Xiao Chen was really strange. He even said that he was White Fox's underling. Lin just thought about it secretly. She didn't dare to say it directly. She was afraid that Xiao Chen would kill her. The car came all the way to Shanty Town and stopped in front of Lin's house. Xiao Chen said, you go ahead. I won't send you off. Lin nodded and shook her head with a blush. What's wrong? Xiao Chen was slightly surprised. I want to go to the toilet. Lin whispered. Then go ahead. I won't stop you from going to the toilet. Xiao Chen wondered. I don't dare to go. Lin was a little embarrassed. You don't dare? Xiao Chen understood that the toilets in this shanty town were all outdoor toilets. There were no separate toilets in the residents' homes. At this moment it was already late. It was reasonable for Lin to not dare to go, so he said, where is it? I will take you there. I used to go to the side of the house with no one, but now that someone has moved in, I have to go to the big toilet over there. Lin said with a blush. Urinating and defecating everywhere isn't a good student. Xiao Chen couldn't help but smile. Then. Lin blushed. I won't say anything to you next time. Xiao Chen smiled and drove in the direction pointed by Lin. This was an off-road vehicle, so there was no problem in driving on the road of Shanty Town. Xiao Chen stopped the car when he came to the side of the toilet. Can you wait for me here? Lin Kuo looked at the pitch-black toilet, and her heart trembled. She still trusted Xiao Chen quite a bit now. He had saved her several times, and although he was a murderous demon, he was still very concerned about her. Okay. Xiao Chen nodded and said, go ahead. I will wait here. If you are afraid, call me. I will talk to you. And? Lin's face was red. She suddenly realized that it would be good if she had such a boyfriend. What am I thinking? How can he be my boyfriend? He likes Tang Tang, Qing Minjing, and Shen Jingxian. Lin walked into the toilet and came to a squatting position. She just untied her pants, but inadvertently, she looked down and saw a pair of eyes looking at her under the squatting pit. Chapter 401. The moonlight outside the toilet shone in. It was a pale face. 2 eyes, lifeless and dull, with a lustful light.
Lin Ke screamed in shock and frantically ran out of the toilet. Xiao Chen was also shocked. What did Lin scream? Did she step on *T or P? Lin was really scared to death. Was there such a scary thing? She thought that if she really took off her pants and squatted down, then there would be a face under her butt. This was simply too scary. What's wrong? Xiao Chen hurriedly walked over. Coincidentally, Lin Ke, who was walking towards him, threw herself into his arms. Xiao Chen was a little inexplicable. Does this sister Lin like me? Did she create such an opportunity to flirt with me? But after thinking about it, this little girl seemed to be afraid of me, so I dispelled this idea. There's a pervert. Lin stuttered. Where is he? In the toilet? Xiao Chen was stunned. He wanted to go in, but he suddenly thought of something. Are there other women inside? No more. Lin Ke hurriedly said. Xiao Chen rushed in, but there was no one in the toilet. Xiao Chen frowned and quickly released his six senses. He used his divine sense to explore the surroundings of the toilet. He only found that a man came out of the men's toilet sneakily and ran away crazily. He ran away. This was the men's and women's toilets. The manure pit below was connected. If one didn't find it disgusting, he could run from below. This person obviously used this method to escape. However, Xiao Chen was too lazy to chase. It was just a pervert. It was dark here. If he left Lin, this timid girl would be scared to death. Ran away. Did he do anything to you? Xiao Chen shook his head and asked. No, I was just about to take off my pants. He was under the latrine pit, staring at me. Lin's voice sounded like she was about to cry. She had never seen such a horrible thing in her life. This was even scarier than watching Xiao Chen kill people. So disgusting. Xiao Chen said. This place was full of *T. This person was really powerful. No wonder he could escape from the bottom. Is it still convenient for you? Lin was about to suffocate. Just now, when she was sitting in Xiao Chen's car, Xiao Chen casually gave her a bottle of drink. She drank it and in the end, then I'll wait for you outside, Xiao Chen said. No, don't. Lin didn't dare to stay here. Then, you won't ask me to stare at you and admire your convenience like that person, will you? Xiao Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Turn around. Don't look back. Lin said in a low voice. Oh, okay. Xiao Chen decided to be a good person to the end. He turned around. Behind him, the sound of pants being undone and water dripping made people's imagination run wild. Of course, Xiao Chen was experienced. Although he was a little tempted, he wouldn't peep at her in his hot-blooded state. He just stood there and didn't move. Lin Ke's time to pee was still very long. A large bottle of juice had been drunk by her. Speaking of which, it was a little embarrassing. She had never drunk such delicious fruit juice before, so she accidentally drank too much. The juice in the car was bought by Li Shaniying before. They were all high-end goods. However, Xiao Chen didn't like them. The eldest lady, Jin Beibei, and Xin Jingxian were all from rich families. They wouldn't drink the drinks in the car for no reason. So there were still a lot left. All of a sudden, footsteps came from the door of the toilet, which made Xiao Chen a little surprised. Could it be that pervert is back? It shouldn't be. Judging from the light footsteps, it should be a woman. Xiao Chen thought and felt a headache. I'm in the women's toilet. Should I go out? But it was too late. That person had already walked in. Another scream rang out. The person who came in was startled by Xiao Chen, but she was also startled by Xiao Chen and Lin Ke. Lin Ke almost fell into the toilet. Halfway through her pee, she was so shocked that she stopped peeing. Oh, who are you? The light in the toilet was dimmer than outside. The girl who came in only saw a blurry figure standing in the toilet. It should be a man, so she was startled. Lu Shuangshuang? Xiao Chen recognized her voice and knew that she was Lin's good friend, Lu Shuangshuang, who sold binoculars. You are? Lu Shuangshuang didn't expect this person to know her. At this time, Lin said, Shuangshuang, it's you. You really scared me to death. She breathed a sigh of relief and peed. Lu Shuangshuang turned around and saw Lin. She was a little surprised and stunned. Ke? Are you peeing here? Yes. Lin blushed immediately. How could Lu Shuangshuang talk like that? Xiao Chen was still here. How could she say that she peed? You and him. Oh my God, is this your boyfriend? You brought your boyfriend to the toilet? Why are you so open-minded now? Could it be that you and him? Lu Shuangshuang's questions came out like a machine gun. Lin was a little anxious. I didn't.
There was a pervert in the toilet just now, so I asked him to accompany me. Pervert? I think he's the pervert, right? Lu Shuangshuang chuckled and then said to Xiao Qin, I say, Ker's boyfriend, I'm going to pee too. You should leave for a while. Your girlfriend isn't the only one here. Xiao Qin smiled awkwardly. He didn't explain. He shook his head and walked out of the toilet. He didn't expect Lu Shuangshuang to coincidentally appear here. If he had known, he would have asked Ke Lin to hold it in for a while and wait for Lu Shuangshuang to come. Lu Shuangshuang squatted beside Ke Lin and smiled at her. When did you get a boyfriend? Why didn't I know? You did a good job keeping it a secret. If I didn't catch you, I guess you would still be hiding it, right? He's not my boyfriend. There really was a pervert just now. Ke Lin quickly explained. Come on, I've been using the toilet here for more than 10 years and I've never seen a pervert. Where is the pervert? Come out and let me beat you up. Lu Shuangshuang said with a smile. Shuangshuang, when have I ever lied to you? There really is. Lin Ke was a little anxious. Moreover, you also know him. We've met before. It was at Temple Fair Street. You went to purchase the binoculars. He's the one who called Hero White Fox. It's him. Lu Shuangshuang thought for a moment and remembered Xiao Qin. Isn't he in cahoots with those women? How did he become your boyfriend? I already said he's not. Ke Lin explained helplessly. He just happened to send me home. I took a shower and my hair wasn't dry, so he drove me back. Shower? Your hair wasn't dry? You two went to get a room? Lu Shuangshuang's divergent thinking was very strong. She immediately realized that something was wrong. Ke Lin realized that the more she explained, the more confused she became. She simply stopped explaining. Shuangshuang, you really misunderstood. AI. Okay, I got it. I won't tell anyone. Don't worry. Lu Shuangshuang smiled and looked like she understood. The car at the door is his? He's quite rich. A Land Rover. It's worth a few million. You're going to be rich soon. If you're rich, don't forget about me, your good sister. If he has money that he can't finish spending, share some with me. Ke Lin was a little speechless. It really wasn't like that. Lu Shuangshuang laughed again. Let's not talk about it anymore. I'm leaving. You two continue. At this time, Ke Lin also finished peeing. She pulled up her pants and left the toilet with Lu Shuangshuang. Lu Shuangshuang blinked at Xiao Qin. Handsome, your car is not bad. Next time I ask you to help me drive a car, don't refuse me to show off. Kuer and I are good sisters. Childhood friend, you have to have a good relationship with me. Otherwise, you know the consequences. I don't lack anything but money. Lu Shuangshuang. Ke Lin was so angry that she stomped her feet. Okay. Let's not talk about it anymore. I'm leaving, bye-bye. Lu Shuangshuang skipped away. Ke Lin was a little embarrassed. Xiao Qin, ignore her. She likes to talk nonsense. I know, but she's not a bad person. Xiao Qin nodded. He knew Lu Shuangshuang. She wasn't a bad person. She was just a little greedy. I'll send you back? Ke Lin nodded and got into the car. After Xiao Qin sent her back to her house, he drove back to the nightclub. When he walked to the previous private room, Xiao Qin listened and found that there were continuous slapping sounds. He secretly thought that Jing Xiaoquan's stamina was really good. He walked to the toilet and took a look at Medicine Master Sun's private room. Obviously, Medicine Master Sun's private room hadn't left yet. There were sounds of wine glasses clinking and the voices of Red Hair and Xie Chen urging people to drink. However, they were talking about some meaningless drinking orders. He couldn't hear any secrets. After listening for a while, Xiao Qin saw someone coming, so he left. At this time, Jing Xiaoquan's side was just finished. Jing Xiaoquan sent the two ladies out and saw Xiao Qin standing not far away. He immediately felt embarrassed. Xiao Qin. And did you feel good? Xiao Qin smiled. I didn't expect this to be quite refreshing. Jing Xiaoquan scratched his head. However, it's fine once or twice. I really can't stand this kind of prostitute. It's too. Hee. Xiao Qin said, let's go. It's getting late. As he said this, Xiao Qin called the waiter and asked him to swipe his card to pay the bill. This small amount of money was nothing to Xiao Qin, but Jing Xiaoquan looked at the bill. Including the drinks, it was a total of nearly 20,000 yuan, which made him really speechless. Why are you so rich? You even sell fried dough sticks? Jing Xiaoquan hesitated and asked. Chapter 402.
At first I was indeed short of money, but after a few car races with others I had money. Xiaoqun said, later I sold fried dough sticks just for Tang Tang. Yeah. Today is also a milestone in my heart. From tonight on I am completely relieved. Jing Xiaoqun said, tomorrow I will attend Tang Tang's wedding but I will bless her. It's just AI, if she marries a good person then it's fine. Yu Xiaoqun is the type that deserves a beating. I won't get up. You can tell me the situation at that time, said Xiaoqun. Okay. Jing Xiaoqun knew that Xiaoqun must still like Tang Tang, so it was normal for him not to go. The relationship between Xiaoqun and Tang Tang was different from that of Jing Xiaoqun. Jing Xiaoqun was at most a good friend. He and Tang Tang had never developed a deep relationship. But Xiaoqun and Tang Tang were different. Jing Xiaoqun could see that the relationship between the two was just a thin layer of window paper. So, normally speaking, Xiaoqun was worse than him. After driving Jing Xiaoqun back to the Zheng family, Xiaoqun directly bought a few bento boxes on the way. It was too late to go back to cook. He didn't know if the young lady would complain. However, after returning, Qing Minjing did not complain about Xiaoqun. She just nodded to him. Xiaoqun had sent a message to Qing Minjing before, saying that Tang Tang would be engaged tomorrow. Jing Xiaoqun asked him to drink, and the young lady readily agreed. How about it? Do you want to go to the wedding tomorrow? Qing Minjing glanced at the bento that Xiaoqun put on the table. She knew that he was in a bad mood and had no mood to cook, so she asked, I have an invitation here. Forget it. I won't go. You go, said Xiaoqun. Well, then you continue to drink with Zheng Xiaoqun tomorrow. Qing Minjing still had to go. As a daughter of the Qing family, the first aristocratic family in Songning, it would be fine if they didn't invite her, but since they sent an invitation she couldn't refuse. Yi Xiaoya came down to eat with them but she was a little puzzled. Where did you buy this lunchbox? Why is it so delicious? It's almost the same as your cooking? Xiaoqun, you didn't make it outside and bring it back, did you? Do you think I'm sick? Xiaoqun asked. Yes. Yi Xiaoya nodded. Why? Xiaoqun was somewhat speechless. Who wouldn't be sick to be her servant? Yi Xiaoya curled her lips and said disdainfully, you don't need to rely on her now and you've acknowledged White Fox as your boss. Why are you afraid of her? Now that you have the White Fox, are you still afraid of the Qing family? Yi Xiaoya, are you going to eat or not? If you don't want to eat, you don't have to. Today Xiaoqun bought the lunchbox. Logically speaking, he shouldn't give it to you. You can only eat it when you buy the ingredients. Now it's equivalent to me rewarding you. Why are you so fussy? Qing Minjing glared at her and said unhappily, you see, with her temper, I broke off the engagement with her. If I live with her for the rest of my life, I will be depressed to death. Yi Xiaoya said. It's none of your business. Qing Minjing glared at Yi Xiaoya. Are you crazy? Why do you care so much? Oh. Yi Xiaoya didn't say anything more and buried her head in eating. Qing Minjing also opened a lunchbox and ate with relish. She found that since moving out, these ordinary meals, things that she couldn't imagine before, such as instant noodles and lunchboxes, had become so delicious. However, were they really so delicious? It didn't seem so. None of the high-class dishes in the canteen were as delicious as Xiaoqun's. For example, the fruits she had eaten in Jean Bei's home were very delicious, but the food in Xiaoqun's hands was even more delicious. After Yi Xiaoya finished eating, she went upstairs, leaving only Qing Minjing and Xiaoqun. Qing Minjing glanced at Xiaoqun and said, Did you go to drink with Zheng Xiaoqun? Yes. Xiaoqun nodded. Does he also like you? Qing Minjing could roughly see what was going on. A little. Xiaoqun nodded and didn't deny it. But because of his family, it's impossible for him to be with Tang Tang. Before Tang Tang returned, the Zheng family didn't think they were good enough for him. After Tang Tang returned to the Tang family, the Zheng family couldn't reach her. What about you? You and Tang Tang are a good match. You were both driven out of the family and your engagement was broken off, Qing Minjing said and suddenly paused. Haha, she went back to get engaged. Between us? Actually, if you don't want to, I'll talk to Uncle Qing later. Xiaoqun said, I know love can't be forced. If you don't like me, I don't need to pester you. Qing Minjing's face instantly turned a little pale, but she hid it well. It's good that you know that. I don't like you. It's just that the engagement was arranged by Uncle Xiaofeng and my father. Even if I don't like you, I have to accept it. Xiaoqun shrugged and didn't say anything. He had never been able to figure out eldest Mrs. mind. He didn't know what her attitude towards him was. Sometimes he felt that she seemed to care about him very much, but sometimes he felt that she was neither friendly nor distant. But now he couldn't find out anything after probing for a bit. At night Xiaoqun tossed and turned in bed. He wanted to find Yi Xiaoye to practice, but he couldn't lift his spirits. It was impossible to say that he really didn't care about Tang Tang and Yu Xiaochuan's engagement. Although Yu Xiaochuan didn't have that function anymore, after all, Tang Tang didn't know. She must be very uncomfortable and confused. After hesitating for a moment, Xiaoqun still dialed Tang Tang's phone number. He didn't expect that Tang Tang's phone was connected, which made him a little surprised. "Hello, Xiaoqun." Tang Tang picked up the phone after a while. Obviously, her mood was also very complicated. Today was the last day she lived in her parents' house before she got married. According to the rules of aristocratic families, after the engagement party, even if they were not officially married, the man and the woman had to live together. If there were no accidents, Xiaoqun and Qing Minjing would have held an engagement party after the end of high school. However, there was an accident in the third year of high school. Tang Tang's engagement party was obviously brought forward. Of course, it was also because of an accident. However, because of the engagement tomorrow, Tang Tang was also allowed to use her mobile phone. Today she would call some friends who were close to her in high school and junior high school to tell them about her marriage. In fact, Tang Tang was also hesitating whether to call Xiaoqun and Jing Xiaoquan. Before she made a decision, Xiaoqun called her first. "Tang Tang, I heard that you are getting engaged to Yu Xiaochuan tomorrow?" Xiaoqun sighed. "Yes." Tang Tang responded, "Take care of yourself. I hope we can still be good friends in the future, although I won't have many opportunities to go out. I've said it before, I will bring you out of the Yu clan." Xiaoqun took a deep breath and said in a powerful voice. "Xiaoqun, in fact, we are not children anymore." Tang Tang was slightly stunned, then she smiled and said, "Why are you still talking about this? Whether you act on impulse or say it to make me happy, it's not necessary. I know my fate and I know that this kind of thing can't be changed. With our ability, we can't change the family's will at all. Just like you, your engagement was broken off and you were driven out of the family. It was against your will. If one day you return to the Xiao family and get engaged to Qing Menjing again, it is also against your will." "I will do what I said," said Xiaoqun. "Well, Xiaoqun, don't say those irrational words again. We are actually good buddies. If there is a chance, I will introduce my distant cousin to you." Tang Tang smiled. "That cousin really exists?" asked Xiaoqun. "Yes, she really exists." Tang Tang smiled, but she said in her heart, "I just have no chance to introduce her to you. Well, see you tomorrow." Xiaoqun said, "I won't bother you anymore." "Tomorrow?" Tang Tang was slightly stunned. "You are coming too?" "Let's see." Xiaoqun said ambiguously, "Yes, Jing Xiaoquan is going." "Okay." Tang Tang nodded and didn't ask Xiaoqun specifically. She also knew that Xiaoqun's heart was also uncomfortable, just like her, but she just pretended to be unaffected. After hanging up the phone, Xiaoqun calmed down his mood and secretly made a decision. Then he put on the Arctic fox mask and went upstairs. Yi Xiaoye was already accustomed to the arrival of the Arctic fox, but he came a little late today, so she was a little surprised. "I thought you wouldn't come today. I was about to send you a message, but I didn't expect you to come. I was delayed by something. Let's start now?" Xiaoqun didn't talk nonsense and directly prepared to take off his clothes. "Let's start now." Yi Xiaoye nodded and also began to take off her clothes. In the Qin family, Yang Tan, also known as Yang Jianan, was sitting at the head of the table, next to War God Qin. On the other side was his father, Qin Huanling. This was enough to show how high Yang Tan's status in the Qin family was. After 3 rounds of wine, Qiao En said, "Brother Nan, it's my honor to be able to attend your family dinner today. I didn't expect you to come. And you are also considered my subordinate. Your Warrior Guild Law Enforcement Hall often has business cooperation with the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, so you don't have to be so polite. I heard that you want to investigate the Arctic fox? That's no problem, just investigate directly. If you need any cooperation, just tell me and I will help you," Yang Jianan said confidently. At this time, Xia Shibin walked into the dining room. Yang Jianan glanced at him and nodded to him. Xia Shibin also sat down. As for what he was doing, Yang Jianan didn't say, so the others naturally didn't ask. "Thank you so much, Brother Nan. It's not a big deal. The main thing is, Brother Nan helped me analyze this matter. It's not impossible for me to get a conclusion from the investigation, but those people from the Warrior Guild will definitely doubt my ability. Chapter 403. Xiao En said, "But if you want me to deal with that white fox and teach him a lesson, I don't dare. That white fox's strength is obvious. He's at the peak of stage 8 inner force. Only you, Brother Nan, can handle him." Yang Jianan was not stupid. He knew that Xiao En's wanted him to help, but it was not that easy. He would not meddle in other people's business. The white fox had nothing to do with him. Therefore he smiled indifferently and said, "I'm on vacation now, so it's not convenient for me to make a move. You also know that my current identity is only the eldest son of the Chen family." "I know. But Brother Nan, I'm really in a difficult position. Can you help me come up with some ideas? From now on, I'll follow you." Jorge hinted. He wanted to recognize Yang Jianan as his boss. The higher-ups of the warrior guild were not unfamiliar with this. If you wanted to be promoted, you had to have a backer. Even Yang Jianan himself had a backer. Xiao En's backer in the warrior guild was his father. However, if he had a backer in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, he would be like a fish in water in the future. After a moment of silence, Yang Jianan felt that it wasn't bad to have a younger brother like Xiao En's. Hence he said, "I heard of something. Because Leng Youxiang from the Extreme Eye sect was killed by the White Fox, his junior brother, Qin Yuhan, wanted to challenge the White Fox. However, he couldn't find the White Fox. If you manage to capture the White Fox, take this opportunity to ask Qin Yuhan to come and challenge the White Fox. No matter the result, the Warrior Guild will recognize your ability. Especially the Colorful Li family, they will owe you a favor and know that you helped them deal with the White Fox." "Really?" Xiao En's eyes lit up. He slapped his thigh and said, "Wonderful. This is wonderful. Brother Nan is the best. You found a way to deal with the White Fox. This way the demonic sect will thank me, the Li family will thank me, and the Warrior Guild will think that I'm very capable. Follow me in the future. I'll teach you these tricks often." Yang Jianan said faintly. When it came to playing tricks, he was quite good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to smoothly become the team leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C. Many people had fought for this position back then. "Haha, then I will follow Brother Nan's lead from now on." Xiao En's hurriedly flattered. Qin Huanling sat at the side, his face flushed red. When this Xiao En's first saw him, he was arrogant, but now he had become his son's little brother. Haha, this was too awesome, too awesome. Thinking of this, Qin Huanling said, "Deacon Xiao, you have to support our Songning Warrior Guild in the future and fight for more benefits from the headquarters." "That's for sure, Uncle Qin. I'm now following Brother Nan, so we're all family. You can call me Xiao Qiao or Enz, you don't have to call me Deacon Xiao, you're too polite." Xiao Enz said quickly. "Oh, then I'll call you Nephew Qiao from now on." Qin Huanling nodded. Yang Jianan looked at the scene in front of him coldly. Returning to the Qin family was just a springboard for him to pursue Song Huawu. In the end, he and Qin Huanling had no feelings for each other. They were just using each other. However, he didn't say much. He was happy to see that Xiao Enz was respectful to Qin Huanling because of his relationship with him. After the meal, both the host and the guest were happy. Xiao Enz left, and Yang Jianan and Xia Shibin were also about to leave. The two of them didn't live in the Chen family, but under Song Huawu's apartment. Song Huawu's apartment was under the name of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Now that Song Huawu had moved in, even if Yang Jianan was the team leader, it wouldn't be good for him to let her move out. Moreover, Yang Jianan didn't want to do that at all. He didn't lack a place to live. He could live in the Qin family or in a hotel. However, he lived downstairs from Song Huawu. His purpose was to get close to Song Huawu. The apartment downstairs had been bought by someone many years ago. If it was the Yang Jianan of the past, he would not have been able to buy this apartment. As the team leader of Team C, although he could receive some dirty money from the secular families, it was absolutely impossible for him to buy a luxurious apartment that was worth more than 3 million yuan. He still had to show his filial piety to his backer. But now it was different. With the Qin family's backing, it was easy and pleasant to buy this house. He directly spent 5 million yuan on the homeowner. The homeowner happily took the money and bought a bigger house in the community. He moved away on the same day. He didn't even want the newly renovated furniture and appliances. He just gave them to the new house. Yang Jianan was a pervert. At this moment he was standing in the bathroom, putting his ear to the drain and listening carefully. When he heard the sound of water coming from upstairs, he knew that Song Huawu was taking a shower. He untied his pants, took out his penis, held the drain, and started to masturbate. Nothing happened that night. The next morning, Xiaoqin drove to the morning street first. He mainly wanted to see the place where he and Tang Tang had struggled. Kerlin's family had already set up their stall. They were busy. To Xiao Chen's surprise, Lu Shuangshuang was also there. At this moment, Kerlin was washing spinach. Lu Shuangshuang had sharp eyes. She poked Kerlin's shoulder and whispered in her ear, your boyfriend is here." Kerlin was concentrating on washing spinach. She was startled by Lu Shuangshuang. She glared at her and looked up curiously. Then she saw Xiao Chen. She was slightly surprised. Why was Xiao Chen here? "It's okay. You go on with your work. I'm just looking around." Xiao Chen smiled at her and nodded. Then he turned around and left. Just when Kerlin wanted to ask him if he wanted to eat noodles, Xiao Chen had already walked far away. However, Lu Shuangshuang teased, "You said he's not your boyfriend. If he isn't, why did he come to see you so early in the morning before going to school? Does he have nothing better to do?" Kerlin couldn't explain it clearly. She was also a little confused. What was Xiao Chen doing here so early in the morning? An explanation is a cover-up. Lu Shuangshuang laughed. "He really isn't." Kerlin blushed. She couldn't understand Lu Shuangshuang. When he went to school today, Jing Xiaoquan was refreshed. Obviously, he had walked out of the shadow of her marriage. It was just a dream. After he figured it out, he understood that there was no possibility between them. "Xiao Chen, good morning." Jing Xiaoquan greeted Xiao Chen. "Good morning." Xiao Chen nodded, but he saw Yang Tan sitting in his seat. He didn't know what he was talking about with Song Huawu. Xiao Chen walked over, knocked on the table and said, "Student Yang, shouldn't you go back to your seat?" Yang Tan looked at Xiao Chen with some resentment. He really wanted to slap Xiao Chen to death from the window, but he really didn't dare to do so, at least not in public. He was very angry with Xiao Chen. "This guy, you are a dog in the manger. Do you think Song Huawu will like you? You are a useless kid who was kicked out of your family. Even if you sit at the same table with Song Huawu for 10,000 years, you can't win her heart. I have something to talk to Song Huawu. Wait for a moment." Yang Tan took a deep breath and said to Xiao Chen, "You can talk after school. This is school." Xiao Chen said lightly, "You." Yang Tan was a little annoyed. Why is this kid so insensible? He winked at Xia Shibin. Xia Shibin immediately walked over and hugged Xiao Chen. He said to him, "Buddy, let's find a place where there is no one to talk." Yang group. "Yang Tan, what are you doing?" "This is school." Song Huawu was a little anxious. She wasn't afraid that Xiao Chen would be at a disadvantage. She was afraid that Xiao Chen would beat Xia Shibin up again with his bad temper. Wouldn't that expose his identity? Today Yang Jianan found her. What he meant was that Xiao Enz was going to investigate the White Fox. He asked Song Huawu to cooperate and not be a busybody. Song Huawu naturally argued, but Yang Jianan used the reason of obeying orders to dispel Song Huawu's idea of continuing to fight. Therefore she was going to remind Xiao Chen during class to not appear as the White Fox. She didn't expect this to happen. If Xiao Chen really acted recklessly and beat Xia Shibin up, what should she do? Of course it's school. I know it's school. Yang Tan smiled slightly. Xiao Chen already knew the identity of Yang Tan and Xia Shibin, so he didn't resist. Instead, he wanted to see what they were going to do. Therefore he walked with Xia Shibin to the door of the classroom where there was no one. "Say it. What's the matter?" asked Xiao Chen faintly. "Xiao Chen, right? Let me show you something." As Xia Shibin said this, he took out an ID from his pocket and handed it to Xiao Chen. "What is this?" Xiao Chen asked. "Student ID? Or a monthly bus ticket? Or a passport? Cafeteria meal card?" "I don't believe that you don't recognize it." Xia Shibin was a little annoyed. "Open your dog eyes and see what this is." "I'm sorry. I don't have a dog's organ on me. Do you have one?" Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Then you help me take a look." "You." Xia Shibin was furious, but he couldn't refute it. He could only say, "I'm from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C. I believe you should have heard of it." Supernatural Investigation Bureau? What is that place? Xiao Chen was inexplicable. Is it investigating UFO and cosmic black holes? Does it look like a scientific institution? You. Xia Shibin looked at Xiao Chen and couldn't wait to beat him up. Originally, he thought that Xiao Chen came from the Xiao family, so he must know the existence of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. However, with his appearance it seemed that he really didn't know. Xia Shibin could only say, "The Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C is in charge of the families in the secular world, such as the Songning Xiao family." Chapter 404. Oh. Xiao Qin nodded in realization. Do you understand now? So you're giving us a favor? Xia Shibin saw Xiao Qian's expression and thought that he was on the right track. What does that have to do with me? I'm not from an aristocratic family. Xiao Qin said, I'm just an ordinary student in the school. You guys are too high-end. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not a martial artist either. You guys should manage what you can. You can't control me. You. Xia Shibin was immediately put out by Xiao Qian's words, but he really couldn't do anything about it. It was true that he was from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, and many martial artists and aristocratic families were afraid of them. However, Xiao Qin wasn't a martial artist, and he wasn't from an aristocratic family. If he didn't care about him, he really couldn't do anything about it, because he wasn't under his jurisdiction at all. Thinking of this, Xia Shibin wanted to say something, but he saw Xiao Qin say lazily, "What's the matter? If there's nothing, I'm going back. Bye-bye." With that said, Xiao Qin returned to the class. Then he directly patted his table and said, "Yang Tan, are you done? Class is about to start. Are you going to violate the school rules? Privately occupying a classmate's property will be recorded. If it's serious, you will be expelled." "You're ruthless. Wait and see." Yang Tan looked at Xiao Qin coldly, stood up and turned to leave. He knew that in this school Xiao Qin had the right to speak. Otherwise, why would the Shin family stand up for him? Therefore Yang Tan really couldn't go too far. If he was expelled from the school because of this, where would he put his face? He was from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. It was true that people had to give him face wherever he went, but if they didn't give him face, he couldn't do anything about it. After all, he wasn't doing official business but private business. Song Huawu was a little puzzled. She looked at Yang Tan's black face and Xia Shibin's indignant and helpless face. She asked curiously, "What did Xia Shibin say to you?" "Nothing much." Xiao Qin said, "He said that they are from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and asked me to make things convenient for them." "What about you?" Song Huawu asked. "Ignore them. I'm not a member of the Xiao family, nor am I a martial artist. Why should I care about them? If they have the ability, can they beat me to death?" Xiao Qin said indifferently. "You're really a dead pig that doesn't fear boiling water." Song Huawu couldn't help but be amused. Then she became a little worried. "Alright, you don't say. Yang Jianan is a little narrow-minded. If you embarrass him like this, he might really do something behind the scenes." "Oh, it's fine. Then let the white fox kill him secretly." Xiao Qin said indifferently. "What?" Song Huawu was stunned. "Xiao Qin, don't mess around. He's the leader of Team C of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, and he's even more powerful than me. Don't mess around." Song Huawu was shocked. "His strength is higher than yours and his identity is there. That Xia Shibin is not a good person." "I'm just kidding. As long as he doesn't provoke me, I'm too lazy to care about his business." Xiao Qin said, "But looking at his perverted face, he's interested in you, right?" "He has been pursuing me but I don't like him." Song Huawu said, "Feelings can't be forced. I don't have any feelings for him. Although he's my boss, I don't have any good feelings for him." "Then he's still pestering you. He's really shameless." Xiao Qin said. "I heard that you used to pester Shin Jingxian?" Song Huawu glanced at Xiao Qin. "Who did you hear it from? Who started the rumor? Is it that Yang Tan? I guessed it was him." Xiao Qin denied it again and again. He. Song Huawu smiled and didn't say anything. However, this kind of thing was hard to say. At least, Shin Jingxian was now White Fox's girlfriend. The previous things were no longer pestering. It could only be regarded as the process of pursuing. Yang Tan sat back in his seat and said to Xia Shibin with a cold face, "What's going on? Why didn't Xiao Qin change seats with me? You didn't tell him?" "I did, Brother Yang, but that kid is stubborn. He said that he's not a martial artist, nor is he a member of an aristocratic family. He's not under our management. I can't do anything about him." Xia Shibin said helplessly. "Damn, he's really a difficult guy to deal with." "I got it. I'll think of other ways. If it doesn't work, I'll find a chance to frame him and get him out of the school." Yang Tan was furious. "That's fine, but we have to think about it in the long run. This kid's relationship in the school is definitely not weak. We have to have a strategy to deal with him." Xia Shibin said. "And you're right, but we can't do it ourselves. This is really a headache. Otherwise, if we send him to the hospital, there won't be so much trouble." Yang Tan had a headache. "Right, Brother Yang, why don't we ask the school bully to do it? We can't do it, but we can ask the school bully to send Xiao Qin to the hospital." Then it has nothing to do with us. Xia Shibin said as he rolled his eyes. And good idea. You ask around and find out who the school bully is in this school. Let him find a reason to mess with Xiao Qin. Yang Tan instructed. After class, Xia Shibin went to ask around. After asking around, he found out that there were 2 ruthless people in the high school. One was Yu Xiaochuan. He was very influential in the school, but he didn't come to school these few days because he was researching about the engagement. The other was his classmate, Lu Jinming. This person was the child of the secular Lu family. When he heard that he was from an aristocratic family, Xia Shibin was suddenly happy. Originally, he was afraid that the school bully wouldn't cooperate, but now with his identity, it was impossible for Lu Jinming to not listen to Lu Jinming's orders. Thinking of this, Xia Shibin walked over to Lu Jinming. Lu Jinming had already found Xia Shibin an eyesore. Damn it, he actually dared to threaten his boss Xiao Qin. Lu Jinming was wondering if he should stand up for Xia Shibin, but in the end this brat came knocking on his door. Lu Jinming, right? Xia Shibin looked at Lu Jinming and said condescendingly. Motherf **her, where did you come from? How dare you make a fuss in front of Brother Ming? Ma Gangmen immediately stood up and stood in front of Xia Shibin like an iron tower. Pa! An ID was thrown on the table of Lu Jinming. Xia Shibin didn't talk nonsense with Ma Gangmen at all. In his eyes, Ma Gangmen was just a small punk. He was too lazy to deal with him. His level was too low. And? What do you mean? Lu Jinming picked up the ID with some doubts. When he glanced at it, his face changed. He was also a child of an aristocratic family. Naturally, he knew what kind of organization the Supernatural Investigation Bureau was, so he quickly waved to Ma Gangmen and said, Gangmen, you step aside first. Let this brother sit down and talk. Ma Gangmen was stunned, but he still obediently stepped aside. Xia Shibin casually sat next to Lu Jinming, put away the ID and said faintly, Lu Jinming, since you know who I am, then cooperate with us to do one thing. Is there any problem? What's the matter? Lu Jinming couldn't help but frown and ask. I won't say those words. Let's be honest. Let Xiao Qin leave this school. Can you do it? Although Xia Shibin was asking Lu Jinming, there was an unquestionable tone in his words. Oh, what? Lu Jinming was stunned. He thought in his heart, sure enough, he came with bad intentions. Why did this guy and Xiao Qin have a conflict? However, Xiao Qin was the boss that Lu Jinming just recognized. It was impossible for him to betray him. After all, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau was too far away. These people asked him to do something, but they might not be his own backer in the future. If he turned around and left, he would offend White Fox. He didn't want to do this kind of thing where the gains did not make up for the losses. However, he didn't dare to refuse outright. He could only think of countermeasures. Then he winked at the thin monkey-like man, coughed twice and took out his mobile phone. The thin monkey-like man quietly understood and then interrupted, Brother Ming, who is this person? He is so arrogant. What is his identity? How dare he order you? Lu Jinming, it seems that your underlings are not very obedient. They actually dare to question you? Your management is not very good. Xia Shibin said faintly, even if you tell them my identity they won't know. Thin monkey-like man, this is Xia Shibin. He is a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C. They are responsible for managing the aristocratic families, so I have to listen to their words. Don't doubt them. Listen to Brother Xia first, said Lu Jinming. Lu Jinming, you are smart. I'll tell you the truth. Our leader Yang, who is Yang Tan, is the leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team C. He likes Song Huawu and wants to change seats with Xiao Qin, but Xiao Qin doesn't want to. I don't care what method you use, just make Xiao Qin leave that position. Force him to drop out of school or send him to the hospital, it's up to you. What I want to see is the result, said Xia Shibin. But Xiao Qin isn't easy to deal with. He also has a backer. Moreover, I don't dare to be rash in front of him. Lu Jinming said, so I want to ask, is this official business? Can you give me an official letter? If there is anything in the future, I can say that I am doing it for you. Lu Jinming, aren't you thinking too much? An official letter? Xia Shibin sneered and said, let me tell you, this is Brother Yang's private matter. I will say it now. You have to help even if you don't want to help. Otherwise, you know the consequences. If you offend me, I will torture your Lu family to death. This. Lu Jinming said with a bitter face, I will try my best. Okay, that's all. I won't say anything else. Hurry up and settle it for me. Your Lu family is the last family. If you want to keep this position you have to do it yourself. After Xia Shibin finished speaking he turned around and left. Lu Zhiming looked at Xia Shibin's back as he left. A sneer flashed at the corner of his mouth. He asked Thin Monkey, "Did you record it?" "I recorded it." Thin Monkey nodded. "Encrypt a copy and save it in the network disk. Then send a copy to my mobile phone." Lu Zhiming said coldly, "How can I be controlled by him? He doesn't know what I used to do, right? I am the young master of the underworld. I am much better than him at playing with these sinister things." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.